Yes.
Yes, we are. Great. Good morning, everyone, to today's meeting for the State Bars Council on Access and Fairness. Before we start this morning, Shannon, would you like to make the housekeeping announcements for us?
Yes. Welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Council on Access and Fairness meeting. Thank you for using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference and to please be aware of your surroundings behind you. All Council on Access and Fairness meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select live transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Then select enable auto transcription. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Elizabeth, do you need to take roll to establish a quorum?
Yes. Yemi? Novella?
Present.
Tara?
Present.
Jezreel?
Present.
Kristen?
Present.
Shalak?
Present.
Angelica?
Here.
Stephanie? Michael? Kristen?
Here.
Great. And we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you so much.
I also wanted to acknowledge one of our board liaisons, Trustee Buenaventura, is present.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Trustee Good sends her regrets. She is traveling today.
Do we know if we're expecting Judge Dolchitz today?
We are. She does have. She will be
Morning calendar.
running behind as she has a morning calendar.
Okay, great. Okay, before we start with our agenda, this is the time where we will call for public comment. As folks likely know, the State Bar does encourage members of the public to send their public comment prior to the meeting in a written form, but we will take public comment orally this morning as well. For the record, COAF did receive a public comment from a member of the public prior to today's meeting, which was disseminated to all of COAF's members. These public comments did not touch upon any issues or matters that are within COAF's purview, so we won't be discussing them today, but they were disseminated to the members. At this time, I'll ask if there's any public comment from members of the public, and I will ask that if there is public comment that we limit it to 3 minutes. And Shannon, if there are any, hopefully you can help us with the timer on that.
Yes, and there is no one indicating that they would like to speak.
Okay. Great. Thank you. All right, then we will move on to approval of our minutes from the March 15th, 2024 meeting. Does anybody have edits or comments on the meeting minutes from last meeting? See no hands on the screen. Members of COAF in the room with me are not indicating that they have any changes. So let's go ahead and take, someone would like to make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Shalak.
I move to adopt the minutes from the last COAF meeting.
Thank you, Shalak. Someone can second, please?
I second.
Thank you, Angelica. And Elizabeth, we can take a roll call vote when you are ready.
Oops, okay, sorry, just hold on, let me pull up my sheet. Sorry.
Nope,
my
take your
sheet is
time.
Taking a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yemi? Novella?
Approve.
Tara?
Tara's turn on mute.
Tara?
Tara, can you hear us?
Approve.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks, Tara.
Jezreel?
Yeah.
I will abstain just because I wasn't present for that meeting.
Okay. Tristan?
I was also not present, but I understand I can approve, and so I do.
Shalak?
Approve.
Angelica?
Aye.
Stephanie? Michael? Kristen?
I approve.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're at item number 4, report from the chair. That is me. I don't have a lot to report. I do want to say we'll talk a little bit later. But for those who were able to attend yesterday's Diversity Summit, it was nice to see some of you in person. We'll talk, like I said, a little bit later in our agenda about this, but it was a fantastic program. And so thank you to the State Bar staff, for members of COAF who participated on panels and as moderators and in making remarks. It was a fantastic event. And we are incredibly grateful to State Bar staff for all the hard work that you did to make that happen. And please, someone tell Danielle that I said that as well. All right, moving on, Elizabeth is going to provide us a brief report.
Yes. Okay. So I have just a few items I wanted to report on. As we've discussed in the past, the State Bar will be studying as a follow-up as a follow-up to Professor Farkas's study on racial disparities. There will be another study, kind of 5 years later, look at the attorney discipline system. And so we will need 2 members of COAF to volunteer to be on a working group to provide feedback on that. If there are any volunteers, you can let me know right now or reach out to me after the meeting. But we anticipate that there will be some work later this summer, and my colleagues in research and statistics will be making a presentation in September on the plans for the study.
I'd be happy to help as long as my vision isn't going to be too much of a limit.
Okay. Thank you, Tristan.
Thank you.
I'm interested as well.
Okay, great.
More later.
Was that Jezreel?
That's
That's
Jezreel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jezreel.
We also, I just also wanted to update you on the work related to the inactive attorney survey. COAF received a presentation on that at our last meeting, and Kristen and Shalak were volunteered to be on a working group to look at that. We will be sharing materials with you in late July, early August for your feedback. Next, I wanted to report out on law school fellowships. As you know, COAF has partnered with the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, who administers grants to legal aid organizations throughout the state, to help review and make award determinations for law student fellowships during the summer. The goal of these fellowships is to encourage a pathway to legal aid, especially for students who would not normally be able to take a free summer. And we've worked really hard to try to provide fellowship compensation that is at least a living wage for these law students. We've been, last summer, so summer 2023, we were able to fund over 70 students. I think it was 83. And then this summer, we also similarly have funded over 70 students. And for this summer's cohort, it was a very diverse group. 68% are reported being students of color, 70% identified as female, about 30% as LGBTQIA, 11% identified as living with a disability, and 4% as a veteran or having served in the military. So we're really just pleased to be able to support such a diverse group of students doing very important work throughout the state this summer. If you all may remember from our attorney census and diversity report card, these kind of statistics are kind of well above the diversity of attorneys. And so that is very promising, I think. So my last update is related to the California Strategies and Stories program. I don't think any current co-op members were around, but this program, which is a free online program available to bar takers to help with stress reduction, focusing on imposter syndrome and stereotype threat. It was actually kind of a study that was derived through COAF. And so it's been administered to bar takers for the last 6 years and was studied and was part of a study that has now concluded. I understand that it has helped over 1,000 bar takers improve their bar passage rates with a particular impact on underserved first-generation students. So that's very exciting. We will likely have a presentation on that at our next meeting. So that is my report.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I remember hearing a percentage in passing of how it helped, and it was a pretty staggering percentage of people who benefited and had success on the bar having just used this online strategy program. So thank you for that. Okay, any questions for Elizabeth on those things before we move on?
I want.
Yes.
How are we promoting that tool?
Mostly it's through social media, and then my colleagues at admissions, who I see are some of them have joined, also have a lot of contact with the law schools, and promote it that way. I know that whenever I see the state bar promoting it on LinkedIn, I try to share it out with my network, and I know others do as well.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Elizabeth? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6.1, which is an update and discussion on the Office of Admissions review of unaccredited law school rules. And we have Program Director Cody Hunanian here. I saw him. There's Cody. Hi, Cody.
Natalie's here too.
And
Hi,
Natalie. And Natalie, you're here too. Yay. Natalie Leonard is here as well.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm sure you all are familiar with Natalie. As I'm bringing my screen up to share, I'll just quickly introduce myself. As you mentioned, I am a program director in the Office of Admissions, and I lead a team created last year focused around the intersection of policy and data. So we will certainly bring forward to the council discussions about our policy agenda and hopefully, and I know Natalie's brought some of our recent reports forward to the council as well, but hopefully bring more insights and data-informed discussions as well. Today's discussion is an update that we shared with the Committee of Bar Examiners last Friday. We wanted to bring it forward to the council to provide some insight as far as where we are at in the process, some clarity as far as what next steps look like. And I know we have our council liaisons as well who will support our process to lay out kind of what we imagine next steps with those liaisons look like. And then I'm happy to take any questions and gather any feedback as well. I should note.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm just asking if we can make your image bigger in the room.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay, thank you.
It's okay. Keep going, Cody. You're good.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I should note, I think we brought to the council last year, I think it might have even preceded my tenure here, an update about this process beginning. So there might be questions regarding our timeline. I just want to note we have kind of adjusted the timeline for engaging the unaccredited law school rules so that it worked in conjunction with the process to revise the eligibility rules. There's a lot of intersectionality there. So for those wondering why we are now bringing an update and why this process is really kicking off in earnest more recently, it's just to ensure some collaboration and alignment between those two efforts. So I want to share with you all the kind of the background that's got us to where we are at today. There have been several discussions both with the Committee of Bar Examiners and also with the Council about certain initiatives that are related to this effort. But I think it's worth reviewing those and kind of helping bridge the gap and connect how those discussions are all part of the same effort moving forward. So since late last year, we have brought to the Committee of Bar Examiners and also the Council opportunities to engage with data that we have collected about the various law schools in California. We introduced, I think, to the Council this previous meeting in March, the profile of California law schools. That was the first initiative to characterize all three law school types in a really robust report. So we analyzed both the ABA schools and also those under the purview of the committee, the California accredited law schools and the unaccredited law schools. And some of the interesting findings related to the unaccredited rules discussion were one, that unaccredited law schools produced 1% of the JD degrees in the state, even though they represent 4% of the student population. We also shared, I think, an important metric that their bar exam pass rates were lower than the other two categories at 9%. And also one of the more important findings was that first-year attrition at unaccredited law schools resulted in about half of students not continuing after their first year. So those were findings from the profile report. Last year, at the end of 2023, we also introduced the Law School Performance Report. And the Law School Performance Report was an initiative to analyze the unaccredited and California accredited law school data on a yearly basis and to identify some key metrics that we could share more consistently with decision makers and kind of track changes year to year. What we brought to the Committee of Bar Examiners last week was the updated report, the 2024 version, which reviewed 2023's data. So we have not, that is attached to the committee's agenda from last week. We are still awaiting a public posting, so we'll be able to share a link to that in a more public-facing manner soon. And I apologize, I'm just realizing my low battery sign is coming up. So let me plug this back in. Okay, that would have been a disaster. Okay. So that was step one. We brought forward several opportunities to really immerse ourselves in up-to-date data and use that to make informed decisions. Then our engagement with the Committee of Bar Examiners really centered around their work plan. And the 2024 CBE work plan included two initiatives that were related to unaccredited law schools. One of them was exploring the option to create a pathway to mandatory accreditation and/or introduce new initiatives that were designed to improve outcomes at unaccredited law schools. And so we brought alongside a discussion related to the profile report some more information about these opportunities. And so we reviewed the existing accredited law schools to see if there were requirements there that had a positive impact on outcomes. We identified the opportunity to pursue mandatory accreditation, again, in context with the trends that the law school profile report showed. Some of those trends also are identified in other data we collect. Things like the reduced number of unaccredited law schools, the growing number of accredited law schools that offer distance and more flexible programming. So really trying to fit these opportunities within a context of the data that we have available. And by the end of our discussions at the March CBE meeting, the April committee meeting, the CBE directed staff to go and research for options to improve outcomes. And those options included strategic use of standardized exams to inform the admissions process, researching methods to track and reduce attrition beyond the current attrition data that we collect, collecting additional demographic data tailored to non-traditional students. This was actually a recommendation that came out of discussions with law schools and our CS BARS members, who let us know that their students have unique backgrounds, whether it's being a parent student, a working student, these other ways of looking at their experience to understand their journey in law school. And then lastly, phasing in a minimum cumulative pass rate for state bar exams. This was rooted in our review of the accredited law school rules, where there is a minimum pass rate for the California bar exam. That has, looking at some of the data, has suggested that it's improved exam pass rates. And so there's an opportunity to explore adopting something similar, whether it's for the bar exam or maybe for the first year law students exam, which is unique to the unaccredited law schools. So those are the discussions that have happened thus far. And that leads us to today, which is that the staff and the Committee of Bar Examiner Liaisons have recently initiated a review of the existing unaccredited law school rules. And I want to share with you all our kind of organizational framework, our goals, and the tasks that we have laid out. Again, happy to take questions and comments at the end about that. Okay. So we really wanted to root this effort in our mandate as an organization and as a team. And so staff and the committee liaisons set up an organizational structure in which we have several overarching principles. Under each of those principles, we have several goals that we're aiming to accomplish. And under those goals, we have the tasks that we are endeavoring to perform to try to achieve those goals. And so I want to start with our first principle, which is consumer protection and transparency. And this is something that's mandated by statute in the Business and Professions Code. So this is something that is, really a core element of what our work should be focusing around. And so the goals that we've identified under this principle are to enhance transparency and accountability, and really to clarify the language of the rules so that they are more accessible to consumers, that they are more transparent in their intentions, and that they're easier to understand. And so staff and the committee liaisons are set to review the required disclosures that schools provide students, as well as other notices to students. We are set to review the non-compliance process, as well as communication of compliance concerns, really looking to make that process more streamlined and really serve as the consumer protection tool that it's designed to be. We want to assess the current acquiescence process. So the Committee of Bar Examiners requires that law schools seek prior acquiescence for non-JD programs to ensure that other study programs that they offer students don't have a negative impact on the JD program. And so we want to review that in context with the dynamic and fast-paced changes in the legal education space. And we're also looking to explore requiring policies around how to collect and record student complaints. In the space of clarifying the language of the rules, we want to review the description of the school categories. As you likely know, but I think it's worth repeating, the unaccredited law schools must primarily principally instruct their students under 3 modalities, whether it's fixed facility in person, distance learning, or correspondence. So we want to make sure that the way that the rules describe these categories is accurate and as clear as possible. We want to review the major change definitions. These are the requirements that law schools communicate to the State Bar and the committee if a major change, like perhaps an ownership change in the law school, is upcoming. We want to assess an appropriate phase-in period for these new rules. We want to review the rules alongside the guidelines that interpret the rules to make sure that that the language that exists in both are in their appropriate space, and explore some clarifications around what we mean by credit hour and other terms that impact our eligibility team's work. So our second principle is student success and preparation for licensure. And that's rooted in the rule of court, which requires that the committee or that unaccredited law schools have particular standards set in place and that they aim to achieve those standards when it comes to their student academic success. And so the goals that we've identified under this principle of student success and preparation for licensure are ensuring that admissions practices enroll students that are likely to complete a JD program and also likely to pass the bar exam. We also set as a second goal, really enhancing teaching and administrative excellence. And so the tasks to move towards achieving those goals are to review the transfer student rules, to assess the current use of pre-enrollment classes and schedules. So we've seen more schools adopt kind of new programming prior to a student enrolling in the JD program. And we want to make sure that that doesn't have a negative impact on a student's ability to succeed in the JD program. And as I mentioned, we want to further explore this newly identified initiative, which is phasing in a minimum cumulative pass rate for state bar exams. And then under the teaching and administrative excellence category, we want to review our library requirements, again, recognizing some of the changes in both the physical classroom, but also the online and distance education space. We want to review record retention requirements that ensures that that law schools have administrative structures that allow them to document their interactions with students and their process and procedures. That also helps the State Bar ensure compliance with the rules and guidelines. And we want to assess some of our current requirements for administrators and also assess the current use of the existing exemptions and exceptions that are in the rules. Really make sure that where the rules provide flexibility, that that the use of that flexibility is for the intended purpose. And the third and last goal is evidence and data-driven decision-making. So I mentioned at the top of this that my addition to the team came with the creation of the policy and data team in the Office of Admissions, and also the State Bar as part of its strategic goals and operational plan has made it a mission that we use data and data-driven decision making to advance our initiatives. And so we feel that this is an important part of all of our processes now, including our rules review. So I mentioned that we have used the Law School Performance Report and the Profile of California Law Schools to help inform recent discussions around that, and I think we'll continue to do so. But a few examples of the tasks that we are going to take on with this kind of data and evidence-driven mindset. One is the goal of improving retention of students and lowering attrition. And the second is really embracing diversity in the population of not just students, but the population of students who complete their JD programs and ultimately pass the bar exam. And so this is where our new initiatives, the 3 of the 4 new initiatives, are really going to come into play, because we want to explore the possibility to use standardized exams and evidence-based evaluations in the admissions process. We want to explore tracking more attrition data or using the attrition data in new ways to help reduce attrition and improve retention. And again, going back to this demographic data, using demographic data that's maybe tailored to these non-traditional students at unaccredited law schools to better understand the diversity of the population at these schools, the diversity of the population completing the programs, and ultimately passing the bar exam. And so we feel that it's a worthy initiative to explore how to add another maybe layer of nuance and context to that demographic information. Okay, and just two quick updates, and then I'm happy to take questions and gather some comments and feedback. Part of the discussions thus far with the Committee of Bar Examiners, and perhaps even here with the Council, has been a bit piecemeal. And so now that we have touched on new initiatives and provided the data and report context, we really feel that the Unaccredited Law School Rule Initiative is kicking off in earnest. And so I want to share a roadmap about what the next steps look like so that there's clarity in that understanding about what to anticipate. So as I mentioned, the staff and the committee liaisons have just began this review initiative, both by setting up these principles and goals, and now by establishing and starting to implement a working calendar to review the existing rules and to draft an initial set of revisions. Following that, we will bring to the Committee of Bar Examiners that initial set of draft revisions for them to, as an entire body, review and discuss. Following that, we will be seeking stakeholder feedback, both from our council here and our liaisons from the council, but also our other entities such as CS Bars and the law school deans that CS Bars represents. Once we have gathered that feedback, we will return to the committee with a final, or I guess a newly revised draft of those revisions, seeking recommendation that new draft goes to the board to be circulated for public comment. And then, of course, we will take that public comment, bring that back to the committee, and the committee will then review public comment, make any final revisions that it sees fit before it goes to the board for final approval. Now, the board only takes up rules issues at several meetings per year. And so we are aiming for and hopeful that we can bring a unaccredited rules revision set to the board in March 2025, so long as we stay on task and have productive discussions both with our committee liaisons and our stakeholders. So that's a little bit about the upcoming timeline. As far as our engagement with the council, we have our two liaisons, Judge Rossi and Shalak Richards. And so staff would like to schedule a meeting with the liaisons to discuss those 4 new initiatives to improve outcomes. And as a reminder, those are the strategic use of standardized exams, researching methods to track and reduce attrition, collecting additional demographic data, and phasing in those minimum cumulative pass rates for state bar exams. So I'm looking forward to meeting with our liaisons and discussing those topics in more detail. And then we can certainly bring information back to the council following those discussions. So that was a lot. I'll leave it there. Do any members have questions or comments or feedbacks about the principles, the goals, or the process thus far?
I am certain that there's lots.
Sure.
Sorry, Cody, this is your first COAF meeting. Can we, maybe so that I can see everybody?
Oh, Cody, can you stop sharing? Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks. I just can't see everybody hands wise. Dean,
I was gonna let other people.
okay. Members of COAF who have comments. I know that Dean Richards here in the room does, as do I, but any other members of COAF who are virtual want to jump in first? I don't see that. Natalie's looking.
Just you.
wondering what we're gonna say. Okay, Dean Richards, would you like to start?
Yes, mine is minor.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'll leave the experts to last.
Yeah,
So I just, Cody, there's quite a few goals on here, and you said at the end, the 4 main goals, and I just wanted to make sure I knew which ones those were. Is that under the goal, enhance transparency and accountability, those 4, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, so I apologize if there was confusion there. So we have 4 new initiatives that we want to explore. Those are the 4 that we brought to the committee in April, which included the standardized exams, the attrition data, the demographic data, and the pass rates. Those are new initiatives, but they fit with underneath the goals that we've laid out. So 3 of those 4 are under the evidence and data-driven decision making, and then one of them being the minimum pass rates is under our principle of student success and preparation for licensure.
Okay, so those 4 don't appear, so I'm looking at the PowerPoint
Yeah.
physical copy. They don't appear on one section.
They are distributed amongst the principles and goals. So we have one of those 4 initiatives under the principle of student success and preparation for licensure, and then listed
Okay.
under the goal of admissions practices.
Okay, hold on.
And
So
then-
student success and preparation for licensure, which goal?
Admissions practices that enroll students likely to complete a JD program and pass the exam.
Okay, great. And then the next one?
And then the other 3 are listed on slide 5, which is evidence and data-driven decision-making.
Evidence and data-driven decision-making only has 2 bullet points on it, or 2 big bolds.
Yes, there's 2 goals. One is retention of students and lower attrition,
Uh-huh.
which then has 2 of those initiatives, the strategic use of standardized exams.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the big goal, admissions practices that enroll students likely to complete a JD program, pass the bar exam, and those requisite bullet points underneath it. And then it's retention of students and lower attrition with those 2 bullet points, and diversity in the population completing the bar exam.
Yes. So the goal, the principle, and maybe this just extra context will be helpful. The principle level is meant to really establish kind of our mandate, why we are pursuing certain goals in the first place, because they are related to our mandate. The goals then are kind of meant to give us a benchmark for which to think about the tasks below that. So if we're going to explore, let's say, strategic use of standardized exams, as we are thinking about it, we should be thinking about it in the lens of, is it helping us, or can it improve retention and lower attrition? And as we're assessing that initiative, we want to just keep kind of focus on that North Star of retention and attrition.
Okay, so any rules changes that we make should advance one of these 4 points that we just went through.
And well, any rule changes that are pursued should be to further advance our goals that are listed throughout the
You
presentation.
can think
Yes.
about it this way. A lot of times when we come to you, we're bringing forth one specific initiative of like military spouse ability to practice. And so it's very focused. But this time what we're doing is we're looking at the unaccredited rule set as a whole. So as part of the admissions rule review process, we're actually looking at the whole set for modernization. But then in addition, we're looking to evaluate these 4 initiatives as well. So it's a little bit different and broader than many of the rules reviews that we've brought to you in the past.
Okay, thank you. Thank you both. And then the only other question I had was in what's, I guess, goal 2 and 3, goal retention of students and lower attrition. I wanted to know, what do we think the difference is between retention of students and lowering attrition?
They're one and the same, right? So we should be improving retention, and the result should be lower attrition.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sure.
And then to circle back to an earlier question you had, you asked about how we are promoting the bar strategies and stories program. So just to close that loop, we didn't talk about how we promote it to the students. So on our call scripts, whenever we speak with any of the law schools, and all of our law school committee meetings mention that program. But for the students, when they sign up for the exam, they have the opportunity to sign up for that program. And then we send them additional targeted reminders with unique enrollment codes multiple times throughout the enrollment period.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah.
Dean?
Hi, Cody. It's a pleasure to meet you. Natalie, good to see you virtually
You as
again.
well.
And we'll talk more. I'm one of those two liaisons, much to Natalie's chagrin, maybe. But I'm curious about particularly that goal around lowering retention, increasing retention, lowering attrition, and sort of simultaneously reviewing the diversity of those in the bar. Those feel to me to be like 2 or 3 steps ahead, because I keep going back to what seems like an overarching issue, which is admitting students that the schools already believe or should perhaps believe, know, or should know are not going to complete law school. They are not going to complete those programs. So I'm wondering, because I didn't hear in the initiatives what gets at that. I understand from, I think, our last meeting conversations, and Natalie, I think with you or someone else, I put in touch with some people around standardized testing and using those minimum rates perhaps as ways to measure. But in the absence of that, sort of what is holding these unaccredited schools, or what are you all thinking in addition to perhaps standardized testing to hold a standard for who the schools can enroll, how long they have to retain them, the money that they are taking from these people who are, again, predominantly historically excluded and underrepresented groups, who are predominantly first generation, who are predominantly working and putting sizable income towards it. What can we get at? What might be an initiative that gets at that before we even get to them keeping those students in school? What are we holding them to as to whether or not they should even be admitting people? I hope that convoluted sentence made a little bit of sense for you.
We're there
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, please, Natalie, please go ahead, and I'll
Yeah.
add my thoughts.
We're there with you, and we think it'll be a system of revisions in that regard. So that's part of why you see a change or reviewing the disclosures that are required to students, giving realistic assessment of what's required in the program. We've been starting to track the reasons for attrition so that they can see not only academic ability, but also life responsibilities and successful ways to balance your life responsibilities when you're going to school at night, as I did when I went to business school. And as soon as I finished, I wondered how I ever did it. And also looking at the standardized tests, I know that is a controversial topic, and we have been in touch with some of the folks that you have suggested to us, but also now, because the ABA accredited schools and unaccredited schools all offer online programs, the standardized tests not only inform who might be successful or who's ready at this time, but it also informs the student what their options could be at all 3 of those types of schools if they can only attend an online program, and that wasn't available before. So those are some of the sorts of examples that we'll be looking at, and we're really glad to have you as part of the team to brainstorm what else we should be including.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, apologies, Dean Richards. I wanted to add, one of the frameworks we are using to think about some of these possible solutions, I think gets at your question, which is, how close to the problem is the solution? And so thinking about the issue of admitting students who maybe are going to have a difficult time completing the program and seeking licensure. If you start at the very beginning, the admissions piece, I think it is difficult to put into place kind of a metrics, data-informed approach for doing that. But what we can do is use the existing exam, the first-year law students exam, perhaps, as a check on the quality of education or the admissions practices in that are established. And so what we saw with the NPR data for the accredited law schools was that after the minimum pass rate for the bar exam was enforced, the average pass rate for students at accredited law schools it increased. And so perhaps that is because the schools themselves have been more thoughtful in their admissions approach, because they know that they must admit students who show and can demonstrate the capacity to excel and succeed in the program. And so establishing something similar, perhaps, again, this is something we're exploring, with the first year law students exam may be a way to put a kind of a metrics-based approach earlier on in their process. It's not at the time of admissions, but it's much closer to the beginning of that issue. And so that's one that I'm particularly interested in further exploring.
Thank you. Going to the sort of fourth goal, diversity in the population completing the programs. And this actually kind of ties back to the idea of releasing information so that potential students are making informed decisions, right? Like we don't want to take all their agency away, but my concern most broadly is that people are, for lack of a better term, getting hoodwinked, and they're not making good decisions. I'm curious, looking at the performance report, I look at under employment outcomes, the survey response rates, and it appears based on the low survey response rates from many of the schools that these are not required for well, let me ask, is that employment outcomes survey required for the California accredited schools as part of their accreditation to provide the employment status for their graduates within a certain amount of time, the way that for ABA accredited schools, there's a requirement to provide employment status for graduates within 10 months of their completing the degree?
Well,
There
please, Natalie, go ahead.
But there is a requirement. It has a longer tail. It's a 3-year tail, and the schools are required to survey all of their alumni. We added a question this year, and we've been working with the schools to determine how they reach out to the alumni to try to improve the response rate, because they are required to show not only the career placement, but also the response rate, so they can determine how many students that's based upon. Going forward, we can decide if further changes may be needed as well.
Okay, yeah, because I see the wide disparity. I mean, there are some schools with 75%, 80%, 70% response rates, and others with 21%, 33% response rates, which then to me, again, don't necessarily give good information to the potential students. And to me, that's tied to that idea of consumer protection. If they're going to a school, so I guess my overall thought is it possible to maybe shorten that time frame or make it seem more required for the schools to get better response rates and tie that together with the bar exam minimum pass or requirements so that they're reporting both within a certain amount of time? Again, with the idea that looking at the performance report, the Cal accredited schools, the average tuition is around $75,000 a year. Someone's figuring out how to come up with all of that in our very expensive state, and then realize the likelihood based on these numbers of getting the job that's going to make that worthwhile is very, very low. I think that goes into whether or not they enroll, if they can do it, whether or not they should make a good cost benefit analysis. And I realize I'm a little bit beyond the scope of your presentation, Cody, so I'm sorry.
No, I
You'll
appreciate
hear that
it.
a lot from me.
That's
sorry.
okay, and I appreciate that you connected the dots between this presentation and our performance report, because that is the purpose of this data that we release, is to help inform these discussions. I think that's valuable feedback to consider how to improve the response rate. I believe, and Natalie touched on the first piece, the schools are required to disseminate the survey responses from the alumni. I think that piece is voluntary, and so for some, I think the response rate is quite low. Dean Richards, what I think is interesting there is, even though amongst the unaccredited schools, there is kind of a disparity between some schools that have fewer students reporting that they required a JD for their current job. But I think, and I don't have the numbers in front of me this second, by and large, though, of the students who responded to the survey, I believe a majority have said that they are currently employed in a job. This is across all of the schools that requires a JD. And so I think why our goal is diversity in the population completing the JD and passing the bar exam is that we feel that the message that we see in this data is that students do want to seek licensure. This is a population that ultimately dreams of being a practicing attorney. And so we want to shift the focus from not just thinking about diversity in the student population, but how that pipeline leads to actually employable licensed attorneys that are diverse. So the data is not perfect there. You're absolutely right about it, but it's telling us something about the, I think, the aspirations of that student population.
I would love if there ever is a point in which your offices are looking at that employment information to give feedback and dig a little bit more, because I think it's instrumental. Of course, it does show whether a JD degree was required or an advantage, but it doesn't show, for example, whether that's a job that's full-time or long-term or anticipates bar passage being used, which are indicators of whether or not they're practicing attorneys, right? And so as you may look into, that might be, you might be like, listen, I gave you a summary. That's not the whole thing. But I'd love to, because again, I do think that that's important for people who are considering a lifelong dream, perhaps, of being an attorney, to make informed decisions about where they're putting potentially $75,000 a year. The ABA schools are ridiculous. I don't even want to, I hardly sleep at night when I think about what my students are paying. So it means quite a bit to me to think about that from this purview. And so I'll stop now. Sorry, Judge Kristen.
No,
Well, I
don't.
appreciate. I'll just add one cap to that. I appreciate the feedback. Would love to discuss it further. I think we may find some frustrating points because some of the data and the structure of the data is defined by statute, and so there are some areas where we can really lean into some new ideas. There's some other areas that maybe there's bigger roadblocks in front of us, but happy to discuss how to make progress there.
Thanks, Cody. I have a couple of questions, but before I do that, I just want to note that our Vice Chair, Judge Michael Rhodes, is here, and that Yemi is also here. So we have more COAF members who have recently joined. So I apologize, Cody. You know, Natalie and I have been working on this for coming up on 5 years now, and many of the questions that Shalak just asked were the same questions I had, especially around transparency. These disclosures are not easy to find. They are frequently, at the bottom, and you've got to look for them. And I don't know that the way we currently are requiring disclosures is all that helpful to these folks who are coming in, paying money and hoping to become lawyers, and for all intent and purposes will not. Especially at the unaccredited, the registered schools. So my question is perhaps more global, and I'm also on one of the liaisons, so we can sort of talk more about all the other stuff later. But have we, and we, I mean the state bars, CS bars, is there any consideration being given to, we're going to try to put some rules in place for these registered unaccredited schools, but if after a certain amount of time nothing changes, is there a thought that we're just going to say we're not going to have this category of schools anymore? And the reason that we're not is because because folks are leaving after a year, and that's a year that they spent on law school tuition. And we know this already, right? Half of them are leaving without any benefit to the money they spent. And truly, less than 10% of them have any chance of passing the bar. And after 3 years or 4 years or however long it takes to get through, because many of these programs are part-time, that there's nothing to show for it. And that because, so I guess my question is, are we thinking about eliminating this category? And the reason I would say that is because we also know that the accredited schools now are, and some ABA schools are offering an online model, which is one of the models that registered schools used to be special to them. And now that is becoming, something you can get at an ABA school or an accredited school, that maybe it's time to say, we're not gonna, for consumer protection purposes, we're just not gonna do this anymore.
Yeah, so you're saying it's not really an effective on-ramp to the profession.
Right, it's not an on-ramp to the, exactly, it's not an on-ramp to the profession, and
it's not necessary.
it's not necessary, it's not effective, and we are taking money and time from first gen, underrepresented folks in the state who want to be lawyers, and we could be pushing them toward an accredited school or an ABA school, if they, and getting them a success and getting them barred in this state, rather than just taking their money and getting them nothing after a year or 2 years or 3 years. And that actually also keeps me up at night. Like, this is not an on-ramp to diversify the profession, because these folks aren't getting there. And that's frustrating from a COAF perspective, I think. And so is there any thought to just saying, no, not anymore? Was that me?
Well,
I'm not on
But,
my
and, but also analogous, right?
Okay. So and maybe that's too broad a question to answer right now, but.
Well, I think I have a broad answer to it, unfortunately, but I think that is the piece of the work plan in which the committee wants to explore a pathway towards mandatory accreditation. And I think the committee has lightly explored that piece, but really requires more discussion to better understand if that's a pathway they want to explore further. I will say, I think the reason the work plan for the committee has explore mandatory accreditation and or improve outcomes as one goal is because I think what I hear from many of our stakeholders is that the categories aren't the problem, it's the outcomes. And so if the outcomes can be improved with rule changes, perhaps that the committee may find that acceptable. Perhaps the rule changes set the foundation for a longer term pathway and kind of assimilation towards accreditation for these schools in the future, or perhaps it's full bore. We don't know what the committee's intentions are there, and I think again it requires more discussion. But it's is a piece of the work plan that I think kind of is separate from the rules review, but also deeply interconnected.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I look at all of the work we're doing on these rules, and I think to myself, we're going to spend, and like I said, Natalie and I have been doing this for 5 years, and I'm rolling off, so you won't have to deal with me for much longer. But I think about how much time and effort we're all putting into these rules for maybe something that isn't the right way to be going. And at some point, we start rolling that ball down the hill, and then we don't, and we don't know how to shift course. And that's why I'm saying, as we're reviewing these rules and we're putting all these new rules in place, ought there not to also be in the back of our mind, and if this doesn't work, we gotta move this train a different direction. Because I don't want to spend forever trying to revise these rules, and in the meantime, there are all these folks who are paying money and then, not getting their dream. So I hear you. I'm worried that the momentum is going to be such that we can't stop. We've started this train and we're not going to stop it if it's not working, because we just keep doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, it ultimately makes the process less clear. It's already difficult, arduous, folks are kind of putting everything into it. And there's this space that's a little bit of a gamble, essentially. And we don't have to, I think what I hear you saying is that, to the extent that, there was a concern that maybe it's, elitist, we should open up the space. Let's make sure that there are good, on-ramps, and that all folks can who want to aspire to and do the work can get there, opened up some space. And ultimately it's not proven out to be helpful, and potentially,
The
we have
opposite.
to be careful to understand whether or not it's potentially abusive of those interested parties. And so we should have a way to to sort of cauterize and close off and cauterize any wound there.
So I see that Angelica and Jezreel have their hands up, but did you want to comment on what I just was talking about before I call on them?
Yes.
Angelica, I'm calling on you next. Just 1 second.
Our goal is protection of the public, right? As well as increasing diversity in the profession. And I have to wonder, why are we not making it illegal for the schools to admit people they know cannot graduate? I mean, that seems like that's fraud. It's so clearly fraud and abusive, and we should be protecting the most vulnerable of the people in our state, not trying to create an alternate path that I know we're dancing around it, but it's fraud, right? $75,000 from someone that they're the keepers of the gate. They know they can't cross the threshold. They should not be allowed to do that. Not adjusted, this rule, that rule. That should be against the law. And then they need to work other ways to either make that work or stop doing it. I mean, if we wait another 5 years, that's how many more students who have been fleeced. That money could have been going into other things to make our state and their lives better. It's sort of shocking to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was a more direct way of saying.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's a more direct way of what I'm saying, which is that I'm concerned that we're going to spend another 5 years on this, as I've spent 5 years on it, and what we know won't actually be different. And in that time period, 5 years will have gone by where, folks will have spent this money.
Well, I mean, I think we have an obligation, right? Like if somebody is licensed by the state in any capacity, I have a child who is the age that they might be going to one of these schools very quickly. They're not, because they're not going to be lawyers, but they will believe that the state has sanctioned that school, even though it's different, because
Right.
they don't understand the difference.
Right, because I don't think that people, right.
They do not understand the difference.
Right. No, I hear you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Angelica, thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it.
No worries. I just want to share my appreciation for this discussion, because I think it's an important one as we think about the future next steps. And I think thinking really about a path towards accreditation is an important one. I do want to just sort of flag things that I've been reflecting on things that we might also want to look at. And it could, so, I'm based in the Central Valley, and when you are from Fresno and if you have family responsibilities in Fresno and you really can't leave the area, but your passion and your dream is to become a lawyer, you don't have many options. Same thing when it comes to Bakersfield. So I think thinking about a path towards accreditation is important, but maybe also thinking about what are some of the other reasons why someone might decide that they enroll in some of these schools. And I do think that sometimes geography, especially for folks with geographic restrictions, is a big part of that decision. And it could be also, now that we're in a remote area, that there are other opportunities for some of these students to consider that doesn't require them to move or leave a current job because they have to have a job to, manage their financial responsibilities to families or children, and what pathways that could open up when there are more options at also accredited law schools that provide for that flexibility that some students I do think frankly require. I mean, I'd even be curious to sort of look at where, I would assume, and I'm sure there's data on this, that for some of these local non-accredited schools, that most of the students that do go there are from the area, and they're, live it's not that they're moving, but I might be wrong, but that's something that I'd be interested in looking at as well, if that's the case.
And a good example would actually be in your backyard, San Joaquin College of Law, which is an accredited school, not an unaccredited. And they set a goal to match the ABA pass rate standard, which they reached last year, and they hope to maintain. And most of the people that attend that school are from the Valley, stay in the Valley, work in the government, have been elevated to the bench, various possibilities in San Joaquin.
They're not a problem, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Ms. Sally. Jezreel.
Yeah, I guess sort of adding on to Angelica's comment, I wonder if it's worth looking at some of the programs in the accredited schools. Like I know Loyola has part-time, partially remote programs. Southwestern has a new program. Like I'm wondering if we can kind of like connect and sort of bridge the gap where we can model those programs after, some of the strengths that are working, and maybe like connect those schools to really strengthen their programs. That thought just occurred to me as Angelica was speaking. But the reason I raised my hand was I had sort of a different question, but I'm just thinking like strategically or maybe another area we can consider. And thank you, Cody, for the presentation. Really helpful. I saw a point in there about transfer issues or looking at transfer rules, and I was wondering kind of what the concerns or the issues were there. Is it mostly like unaccredited classes like not transferring over to accredited schools, or sort of what the concerns are there? Because my mind's just thinking like strategies, like obviously this might be a longer term issue to like fix, but maybe like that's one avenue we can like work on and think about strengthening or fixing any gaps there that can help some students get to the end line.
Yeah, well, our task is to review the transfer rules. So I think there are several opportunities, or at least some areas that deserve focus. I think one of the things we want to be, cognizant of is that transfer rules allow students to transfer when necessary, but it doesn't allow schools to maybe enroll students who have maybe demonstrated their challenges performing well at other schools. So ensuring that that doesn't create kind of a downstream admissions problem. So that is just one, I think, of probably several areas that we should be thinking of exploring and tightening the rules. Not tightening, but just making it more clear, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think like strategy wise, it might be something the committee might think about.
Yeah, and this is also, I think, related to something I mentioned at the top of the discussion. We really have recognized that the school rules and the eligibility rules are quite intertwined, and so there are elements to the kind of the procedure of students transferring and our internal procedure of how we navigate eligibility assessments. And so making sure that anywhere there's friction between the transfer rules and eligibility's ability to do their job is probably an area where we'll also spend a good deal of attention.
I have a couple more questions unless there's somebody else on co-op.
I wanted to highlight again just that, and I appreciate Cody and Natalie. For me, I don't want to speak for anyone else on co-op. I think that even this discussion from Angelica and Jezreel around like San Joaquin College, for example, highlights the difference between the Cal Bar accredited schools and the completely unaccredited schools. And so I wanted to say on the record for myself, I don't see the issue as the Cal Bar accredited schools. There's oversight, there's engagement, we have metrics on their performance, while perhaps not at the level of the ABA accredited schools, and I feel so elite us saying that, but a student can choose that and have confidence in outcomes that they can achieve, right? Yes. I think the question is the unaccredited schools, like what I wake up tomorrow and decide I'm starting a law school and just do it and take $40,000 from somebody. That to me is where the question on the ethical obligations that we may have about the disclosures comes into place.
And
Yes, and I second that. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about, yeah,
Chair,
yes, go ahead.
I
Tricia.
just, I'm just talking with Dean Richards. I didn't even, I'm relatively new to COAF, very new. I didn't even realize there was an unaccredited category. I just was
Yes,
like,
there's three
okay,
categories.
there's ABA, there's accredited, what's unaccredited? It's not even what I thought it was. And now I'm shocked, like shocked that we even have that as an option.
Right.
So just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
For my
Yeah, that's why I was asking,
on
is
COAF.
this,
That's shocking to
is
me.
this an option we actually still need anymore?
Did we ever need it?
Well, no, I think to Angelica's point, I think, you know, and Jezra might have said this too, like, I don't know if we ever needed an unaccredited registered section, but for a long time, there were not, and there still aren't any ABA accredited schools in the Central Valley. But now, and so certainly the accredited schools fill that gap. What gap the unaccredited schools filled, you know, I'm not particularly well versed in that. I mean, I have my own personal opinions, which I won't share here, but I don't, that's the category that I'm talking, when I said, do we need this category anymore? I'm not talking about the CS bar schools. I'm talking about these unaccredited registered schools. To Shalak's point, you can just, in theory, start. But I had a couple questions.
I just was gonna say, the question I would like answered then, if possible, is are there any regions in California where there would be a dearth of any option if the unaccredited were to go away?
If a completely unaccredited.
That's right. So if we were to say, if we could just say tomorrow, these schools are illegal, we can't do that because this area or Yuma, these places, there would be no option. If that's not the case, then this is a much faster discussion.
Well, I think originally, and Natalie, you can confirm this, but I think originally many of these registered schools were simply online. So there was no physical building, right?
Mhm.
You could do these programs. There might have been one physical building because you required a building. But
Well, a couple of things. So
Yeah.
yes, sometimes it was a geography gap. For example, there's a registered school in India, and so that would be the only choice in that area of California. Similarly, in Riverside, although now there is an accredited school there as well. There also was a time when both the accredited and ABA schools were limited to a fixed facility option. So
Right.
the unaccredited registered schools were the only way to have either a correspondence model or an online option. So in recent years, that's no longer true, but it is relatively recent. It is only in 2020 that the accredited schools started admitting their first online classes. And we have a few ABA programs, and we'll see many more starting this fall. So that's brand new.
so that was my point. 5 years from now, would we actually even need these? Even if we found out these rules didn't work, would we still need them if there were online models in the accredited and?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second that, except 5 days from now.
Right. Yeah, no, I hear you. Just quickly, Natalie and Cody, and again, I thank you. Elizabeth accounted for 45 minutes on the agenda for this, because she knew. She knew, and it still wasn't enough time. But
I was
can ask you-
nervous because I had 7 slides and
Good.
Elizabeth
You
told me
didn't think we'd be
45
able to fill
minutes.
up the time. You should have asked Natalie, she would have told you. Just a couple quick questions, and they're like really like yes or no questions. But when we're talking about attrition rate after the first year for the registered schools, these unaccredited schools, is this attrition happening after they take that first year, that first year exam, or is the attrition happening even before they take that exam? Do we know?
We're looking at it in 2 layers. So this is before, and they have 3 opportunities to take and pass. And so
Right.
this year we added the 2L attrition. So that's the time by which they must have passed the exam. So we can give you more detail about that.
Okay. And then my other last question for you is, do we meaning the state bar, not do we track any data about who's leaving and why they left? Does the school do that? Do we do that?
The school collects and shares with us that data, and in a period of over the last couple of years, we've been getting more data and more categories, self-reported reasons from the students about why they leave, whether they leave voluntarily, and if so, why, if they'll state, or if they don't complete probation, or they leave for academic reasons.
Great, thank you.
I would just quickly add to this, what I thought was exciting about this year's new law school performance report is that we added some new layers of data that I think provide that additional context. So I'll just point your attention to, if you have a chance to look at the report, there's one area where we look at 2L attrition.
Yeah.
And great. And we added a category of those who were disqualified because they did not pass the first year law students exam. So that's new. And as attrition and other measurements as a whole, not only do we include our normal gender and race/ethnicity demographics, but we've also included in this report intersectional demographics that look at groups at the intersection of both race and gender. So we've added, I think, some more detail about why students are facing attrition and also who these groups are with that intersectional lens. And I think that's an interesting new addition to the report.
Thanks, Cody. Anybody else comments, questions for Cody and Natalie? Thank you so much for being here and for your patience with us all. I know that Shalak and I look forward to chatting with you all further. Thank you, members of COAF, for your very informed and wise questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Leah. Nice to see you.
Hi.
So we are gonna move to item 6.2 on our agenda, which is an update on the DEI Leadership SEAL program. And Danielle is going to lead us in that discussion. And Danielle, I don't know if you were here when I mentioned the Diversity Summit, but again, thank you for that. It was tremendous. And thank you for all your hard work on that.
Thank you. I was here. I was hiding in the attendee pool, but I very much appreciate the comments. And look forward to giving an update on that as well after we talk about the DEI Leadership SEAL program. So do you all see my slide in full screen, just to double check?
We do.
Great. So today, as we're chatting about the DEI Leadership SEAL program, I will give a very brief program overview just to remind you all what we are talking about, but then want to spend some time giving you a couple updates on what we've been doing with this program in recent months, and also facilitate a discussion around next steps for the program, and particularly gather some of your thoughts and initial feedback on potential updates to the various action items that are part of the DEI Leadership SEAL program. So for that high-level reminder program overview, our DEI Leadership SEAL program is a program that's available to all legal employers that employ California attorneys across the legal field, across all sectors. And it is a list of 10 DEI best practices, or 10 action items is what we call them in the program. And to be participating in this program, an employer must commit to implementing at least 5 of those 10 action items. If they and once they have once they have committed to those action items, they then have a year to implement their selected action items. So employers who ultimately implement 5 can receive a bronze tier leadership seal. Those who implement 7 are silver tier recipients, and those who implement 9 or 10 are recognized as gold tier leadership seal recipients. We do have some employers that at their initial application phase actually already have 5 or more implemented, and so they don't have that year-long implementation window. They apply as a leadership seal recipient, and if their documentation is sufficient, they are able to kind of bypass that year-long implementation window and move right on to the seal recipient status. And speaking of applications, the State Bar just recently announced or added to the State Bar website our second cohort just last week. So we identified 30 new employers. 9 of those are seal recipients and 21 of those are committed participating employers whose year-long implementation window starts now. And these 30 employers are joining our first cohort of about 70 that we announced last year. And so we're very excited to have this new group of employers in the program and part of this with us. And this slide here just quickly lists out for you those the second cohort seal recipients. So we have 1 at the gold level, 2 at silver, and then the remaining 6 are at the bronze seal level at this time. Any of these employers could implement more action items and choose to move up. We have what we call a tier advancement process where they can submit documentation and move up tiers. So we hope that some of our bronze folks will do that in the coming months. We were super excited to see in this cohort more government employers and also a couple of the State Bar's legal aid IOLTA EAF grantees, which is very exciting. Happy to leave this list up for a moment for folks to take a look at.
I'm sorry, this is Michael Rhodes. I just want to interject. I'm excited to see that there's a Superior Court. In fact, the LA Superior Court, the largest Superior Court.
I just said that to Elizabeth too. It's not your court, but you can work on that.
No pressure, Michael.
Yes, we were also very, very excited to see that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's a nice mix of.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's also nice to see like more government agencies participating.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten feedback in the past that our program is great because we're not just geared towards the private sector. So that's exciting to see.
Absolutely. All right, and then a couple other updates. That first cohort who had that year-long implementation window, that implementation window just closed for them just a couple weeks ago. And so they were required to submit their documentation by June 14th. Ahead of that due date, we held some office hours for those committed employers so that we could answer any questions they have about their documentation or where they are in implementing those action items, and also an opportunity to just discuss their progress and chat amongst themselves. We had about 9 employers have staff represented at that those office hours, and it was actually a really great discussion with those employers. They spent a lot of time kind of chatting amongst themselves and providing resources and sharing ideas amongst each other, in addition to asking staff for clarifying questions. So it was really encouraging to see that discussion, and it sparked for us thinking about ideas that we can continue to facilitate that discussion among the participating employers. And since that deadline just passed, staff is now reviewing the documentation for about 20 employers that were committed and are hoping to be seal recipients from that first cohort. Great. Okay, so now we will move to the discussion portion of update and discussion on the DEI Leadership SEAL program. Since the launch of this program, one of our long-term goals has been to update the action items over time, to ask more of employers, to encourage continued growth in their DEI efforts, and make sure this isn't work that stagnates both at the employer level. And so we do plan to update or change or kind of iterate on the action items about every 3 years. And we just launched a second cohort, so it's time to start having conversations about what that next list of action items might look like. So over the next few slides, I'm going to walk you through our current action items and talk at a high level about the documentation that is required to demonstrate their implementation. But I would love to have you all think about, while I'm doing that, are there action items that could be updated to ask more of employers? And are there action items that might be missing that we might want to add to a list, sub one out that's on the list now, or simply make the list longer than 10. I don't know that we're necessarily beholden to having 10 action items. Before I move through the slides, I did just want to mention that in this program overall, we want to be mindful of making sure that the action items are ambitious but still attainable, and also want to ensure that we're not accidentally excluding any sectors. To Elizabeth's point, there are some DEI programs that are really geared towards the private sector, and we want to make sure that this is something that is still attainable for folks in government or nonprofits. And I should also mention before we jump in that we're getting your initial thoughts on this today, but we will also gather feedback from our participating employers and stakeholders on the feasibility of any changes before ultimately implementing those changes to the list.
And we'll also engage with the working group, who is Michael, Yemi, and Tristan during this process.
Yay. Thanks, Elizabeth. All right, so I will go ahead, like I said, and walk through each of these at a high level. Feel free to stop me if you have initial reactions as we're going, but then I also have a slide for us to kind of come back and look at the full list as a whole and provide feedback at that time too. So the first action item, I should say these first two action items are required of all SEAL recipients. So you have to have at least 5, but these two need to be in that list of at least 5. And that's because we thought these were really foundational and important for everybody that was in this program to attain. And so the first is to collect and maintain demographic data on their employees. And what we ask for is a description of their data collection and analysis process. So at this stage, we don't collect the actual demographic data itself. We've been talking both with COAF members and also our colleagues in the Office of Research Services, Research and Statistics, about if we wanted to collect data in the future, what that would look like and what we would do with it, because we want to be mindful that we're not collecting data just to collect it, that we would have a plan for what we would do with that data. So at this time, we collect or ask for a description of their data collection and analysis process. The second action item is to create a DEI strategic plan, and we ask them to upload a copy of that strategic plan. It needs to include specific goals and objectives and metrics and benchmarks. And we ask them also to identify a significant goal or objective within that plan, the metrics that will be used to monitor progress towards that goal, and how they share that with both their staff and clients if it's requested. All right, the third action item is to calculate staff turnover and promotions by those demographic categories that they collect. And again, we ask for a description of what that data collection and analysis process looks like, rather than asking for the data itself. For example, we ask for when are the calculations or comparisons run, what happens with the findings, do they have a process to incorporate any findings from that analysis back into their DEI strategic plan, how they would make edits and additions to the strategic plan as informed by that analysis. Action item 4 asks them to, or requires them to, compare California attorney hire demographics to the California attorney population. So again, asking for a description of when those comparisons are run and what they would do with those findings on any disparities that exist. Action item 5 is to create and share publicly a DEI statement. For this, the documentation is quite straightforward. We ask them to provide a link to their website where it exists, and also a job posting that includes that DEI statement on it. Action item 6 is conduct staff stay and exit interviews. We ask them to provide a list of the questions used. The questions should ask about things like organizational culture, employee sense of inclusion and belonging, and if there are areas in which the organization can improve. All right. Next is survey staff. So similar to the interviews, but slightly different focus. Survey staff at least biennially to gather feedback on DEI efforts. Again, we ask for a blank copy of that survey rather than the survey data, but we do ask that it include questions around workplace satisfaction, climate, sense of belonging, and also require that the results be shared with staff. And again, ask how they use those survey results to inform their DEI strategic plan, how they would incorporate findings in their work. Action item 8 requires annual implicit bias training for all employees. This one, there's a little more robust or at least lengthy documentation requirements. We ask that they provide a copy of the internal policy that requires that training on implicit bias. We ask for an example of a training that they've provided in the last year, including the source and date, and then also the percentage of employees that participated in that latest training. In our documentation and the application and the resource guide, we say that training should be provided by people or organizations with significant professional or academic experience related to the training's content. So it shouldn't just be somebody in their office they've determined can give a training on this and they have no other, qualifications or experience doing so. And so that's something that we've been focused on as well when evaluating those materials. And then the last two action items are incorporating DEI work into performance advancement and compensation decisions. Right now, we ask for a blank copy or description of the organization's performance evaluation form and billable hours policy, if applicable. That includes that DEI work in some way. And finally, integrate DEI responsibilities into the leadership team members' formal job duties. For larger organizations, which we define as those with more than 100 California licensed attorneys, they need to also maintain a DEI professional position. And so to demonstrate documentation for this, they provide us a copy of one leadership team member's formal job description so that we can see it includes those DEI responsibilities. And then also, if they're a larger organization, the job description of that professional DEI position. All right, so this is a graphic that shows all of the 10 action items in one. And again, would love to hear your thoughts on, are there action items that can be updated or advanced to ask more of employers, either in the action item itself or in the documentation that we require from folks? And then are there any action items that are not on this list that you think should be? I see we already have some hands raised, and also if you need further prompting, there's a couple ideas that we have generated kind of from staff that I'm happy to share as well, but I will stop talking and we can turn to folks that have their hands raised.
Thanks, Danielle. Jezreel.
Thanks so much, Danielle. These are great and really tangible. I have a couple of thoughts and comments.
Please.
First, I will say from attending the conference yesterday, a lot of the attendees were really excited about meeting each other. And one of them suggested that they would like to kind of be paired and like for people who want to enter the program to have like a mentor of someone who's already like a organization that's already in. Or they were just really excited and wanted like more opportunities to connect, like kind of how you were saying with the office hours, or just kind of like chatting more about what different organizations were doing. Because I think it's always helpful to know like what everyone else is doing or how they're implementing different things. So I wanted to comment that in terms of the action items, a couple of thoughts. First, for the second one with creating the DEI plan, I think it would be great, and maybe this is something that's being discussed or will be discussed, but just if goals are set, that there's some sort of like accountability of checking in with like, are these being met? Like, are these goals that are, articulated in the plan being met? Some sort of metric. I understand it might be difficult, or I don't know how this fits in with the program, but like maybe if they initially apply and then later they're granted status once they meet those goals, or I don't know like how that sort of like check or accountability could fit in there, but I think that would be really great to have some sort of accountability there. My other thought is with respect to action item 3 with calculating turnover and promotions. I think this is a really important one and a big one that would be really great if it was required. just because I think it really hits home on the inclusion piece. Right, diversity is like getting people in the door, but inclusion is advancing them and promoting them and keeping them there and retaining them. And so I just think that's a really important part of it, the retention piece. And I could see like that fitting in really well with you know, just looking at who's leaving, why are they leaving, how long are people staying, you know, are they advancing within the organization, just things like that. I just think that's a really important action item. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Jezreel. Those are all great comments. And maybe the working group, because I know there's 3 of them, right?
Mhm.
The working group could talk about ways to maybe get the government, maybe the government, there's a cohort where the government folks are put together and the private sector and nonprofits or something. Because I think Jezreel is right that having the in-person meeting yesterday really highlighted the fact that people are looking for ways to connect. And so maybe there is a way that the working group can think about how to keep the cohort groups together, or at least allow them to know who the other government folks are. Because especially for government folks, I think it would be helpful to see how others are doing it. And, you know, to Michael's point about the Superior Court, I mean, if LA Superior Court is doing it, there ought to be a way that Los Angeles can share out what they're doing with the other Superior Courts around the state. So maybe there's, you know, stuff to think about for the working group there, for sure.
Yeah, there was in those office hours, there was some kind of explicit asks among each other of like, oh, I'm at a nonprofit and we're trying to think through like how best to structure our strategic plan. Do any of the other would other nonprofits be willing to share a copy of theirs or ideas on, you know, what theirs looks like? So I think there's definitely that desire and even hunger for that discussion that might be a little more sectors focused or sector specific.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Danielle. Anybody else have?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, I love this, and I'm
Good, because you're on the working group.
I'm very happy to be on the working group. And Danielle, I mean, you laid it out really nicely, and I spent all this time trying to sort the things into effort, right? And either expense or effort. And then I see that you have it, it's very, it's in order. First 4 things, in my opinion, are incredibly easy or free. The next 4 things are either a little bit of cost, certainly time counts, but a little bit of cost, or moderately, you know, they require a change in process. And then the last 2 are next level, right? They're either expensive or they're harder to do. And, you know, hiring a specific diversity professional, for example, is expensive. And I had one question, and then I have other comments, but the question is, for the larger organizations, the 100 attorneys or more, they have to have a dedicated DEI person. Is that the only job they have, or can they also be like managing attorney who has some expertise? And how do we decide that?
I believe it needs to, so it needs to be a dedicated position, but I don't know that we necessarily require it's 100% of their time. Elizabeth, feel free to chime in if you feel that's incorrect. But
No, that's correct.
So it has to be, Elizabeth is the person at the organization who handles these things, but she doesn't have to spend all her time on that.
Right,
Okay,
because we
that's
know
good.
that in like government and nonprofits, there's not that luxury.
Well, even in
Right.
for-profits, right? I
True,
mean, you're
true.
talking about 100,000 plus salary for someone to come in and if that's all they're doing. So I'm glad to know that. I would suggest, if we're looking for ways to keep the program relevant and to sort of up the level, sort of high tide, I'm sorry.
Yep.
That the first 8 things should be mandatory. That should be the minimum, right? Because they're either free or easy or moderately expensive. And the things like 9 and 10, which I'm delighted to see here, those are next level things. And my frame of reference is the clients that I work with. Those first 8 things would be things that I would make them do, like immediately, right? Because they're easy-ish. If they want to have a special seal calling them out statewide as an example, my suggestion would be, now that they've already done it, right, is that going forward, those 8 things, and we can talk about this much more in the working group, but that the first 8 should be standard. And then I think we can come up with a couple more that would be, that could help distinguish between the tiers, right? Because there's statistics, right? So we have been gathering this data, but they should have year-over-year improvement, for example, to continue maintaining. In other words, we don't have to have a threshold necessarily, but if last year their percentage of employees with an intersectional identity, which I love, was 4%, next year it should be higher than that, right? It doesn't have to be, they don't have to reach 20%, but we're trying to raise them up, right, with the tide, and it should get bigger. So when you're asking what kinds of things should we add, I would suggest that the things that are measurable should now have a year-over-year improvement, at the very minimum, no decrease, right? Which gets to, I think it was Jazarel's point about retention, which is incredibly important. You know, if we don't focus on that, we're only focusing on diversity, which just brings people in who then can leave, right? And so I think this is wonderful, a wonderful start, and I'm super proud of everybody who was involved in this, because I think it's really great. But I would like to see the bar providing almost like an action item kit to people who want to do it, to make it easier for smaller employers, right? Here's the sample DEI statement. Here's the survey that we suggest you use. Now, you may want to use an expert, but maybe not. You can just do, you know, and I'm very aware that surveys are not free, right? They are, if they use somebody like me, it's expensive. If they do it internally, it's cumbersome. And you have to know survey fatigue, right? There's all these things. So I had to look up biennial because I couldn't remember if it was twice a year or every 2 years. But every 2 years, I think, is great. So I guess my point is, let's make some more of these things mandatory. Let's add some other things. And I think this is fantastic. So, yeah.
Well,
is there a minimum number of employees you have to have in order to do this?
Just more than one.
More than one.
Because we're not, it's this, for small law firm has to be 2 or more.
2 or more. Okay, cool. Thank you for letting me comment.
No, I'm glad you're on the working group.
Me too.
Sheila.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Danielle, you were gonna respond?
I was going to respond briefly, if I may.
Sure.
I think I appreciate the feedback, Tristan. That is great. I just wanted to point out the survey actually was originally annual when we were in the focus group kind of building this, and then we heard, you know, like the survey fatigue and also needing time for folks to actually implement the findings of the survey, which is why we moved that to biennial. So I'm glad to hear that resonates with you and seems like a reasonable timeline. The only thing I wanted to respond to, in addition, in terms of kind of making some of the middle action items, if you will, also required, is we have heard from some government organizations, or just that have a union. It doesn't need to be a government, I suppose, but some organizations that are unionized doing the like changing policies around the training might take longer because they need to work with the union for that. And then also around requiring continued growth or improvement in the year-over-year measurable items. We have heard from some of our smaller employers that, like, if they have a team of 6, if one person leaves, the percentages, you know, get really wonky really quickly.
Yeah, right.
So that's not to say we shouldn't do it, but just something we should keep in mind if we want to move in that direction, that can be more difficult for smaller orgs.
Well, and as we become more sophisticated with the SEAL program, it might make sense to have slightly different targeted requirements for the big categories of employers, right? Hard to do that when you're starting from scratch,
Right.
but when you have it now, you know, we can have a nonprofit category, a government category, because of things like unions, right, that make a huge difference. And the idea is, if you can do it, we want you to be doing it, but we understand there's a lot of stuff you might not be able to do, right? So I'm totally with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Yes.
I just had a question, Danielle, that came to mind, and it's building off of a point Tristan raised regarding the requirement to maintain a DEI professional position and whether or not that's the sole part. Is that something, when you get the job description, that you're looking at perhaps percentage-wise, how much of the person's time? Because it's very easy,
To put
the cynical part of
just
me,
slap it on
to say to someone, and you're the DEI officer, and spend 2 hours a week, you know, reviewing this thing, other duties as assigned type thing. Or the flip side, right? Like understanding that for many places, it's not the only thing they can do. But if someone essentially already has 2 full-time jobs, and if they're doing their DEI work appropriately, it is a full-time job. You know, sort of just the ability for the state bar, and maybe that's for looking at people where it's their, to Tristan's point, their second or third year, right? So we understand the first year, maybe you're adding it to someone's duties, the job description, but can they keep, are we able to, or perhaps you can think about looking more deeply for renewing or continuing SEAL participants into what those job duties look like, how much of a percentage it is, the fatigue that's put on, you know, curious about the turnover in those roles as well, because that can signify many things about commitment to DEI work and the burden that's on. So, you know, that's, I think, like forward thinking. I do think it's very interesting for, again, places where maybe they're at the gold level, right, is the highest. We create a platinum level, right? And, you know, people have been gold for 2-3 years who have now recognized that those things, and they're continuing to build on it instead of going like, yeah, check, 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 but how are they advancing even in having that professional position and building it out into an office?
Yep.
Can I jump on that, or is there someone else in the queue?
No, jump, Yummy.
So I think about it, I like this platinum thing. I was circling around platinum myself, and thanks everyone. I'm sorry, I've been traveling. I'm you know, sort of doing a few things, but I'm here. So I was thinking about it from the way that the trademark registration process works, right? Like you get your mark, but after, you know, 5 years, you can say that your mark is incontestable. We can't say that with DEI, but right, maybe there's this platinum thing where you can get a whatever is it, double diamond. There are other sectors where they you know, sort of allow you to be recognized for consistency, for your consistency in the space. And so you know, kind of wanted to just appreciate that was thrown out there, and you know, appreciate that. And then the other thing I was wondering about or thinking about, I remember sitting under a GC who said, you know, I appreciate your presentation on DEI, but when I have a problem and I ask you to send me your best team, if that team doesn't look like that brochure you stuck in my face, I know exactly where you are in DEI. And I think that we should share that simple anecdote with our SEAL members. You know, we got to make sure it counts, right? So, you know, client satisfaction, kind of just through the pipeline of actually executing on the work. How are folks doing? Are they going to the dinner? Is it like as a bar we can't do that, but I think asking that question tells people that's the mandate. That's how you get to double platinum status. That's how you get to double diamond or whatever that is. When I have a problem, does your team look like the brochure? Period.
Yeah.
I land.
That's a good point, Yummy. Thank you. Yeah. That's a good point. Tristan,
and all the other work is amazing. Like I love the surveys, all the other things. I'm sorry, I want to say that too. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That's great. Yeah, just one more comment, which is that for some folks, level the 10, they're too small to have a dedicated person.
Right.
So we
That's
probably
why
should
we
allow
say,
them to
yeah,
also
that's why
have,
they have
but
integrated.
but also maybe have a consultant, right? If they have a consultant on staff, or they have a relationship with an entity, even a nonprofit, right, might have some relationship. So I think we should explore a minimum aware that I'm not trying to create a standard that makes somebody hire me. I'm trying to be careful, but there should be some alternative, even for the big organizations, right? Like they might say they just don't have time. So they should be
So we
able to
contract
outsource,
with, right?
yeah, somebody.
Okay.
Right.
Good point.
A lot of people choose to outsource rather than have somebody because the area is changing and they have struggled to keep up internally. So it should be an option.
Great points.
Is there somebody else in the? Q,
No.
or can I jump in?
You
So
can jump in.
the model that we use at Disney, and you all know, Heather so well, was sort of a business employee resource group, right? Like, so there's somebody that's really focused on the business. So even if they, these organizations don't have 100K to hire someone to do this in a dedicated way that feels like it's solely focused on, sort of DEI, but just understanding whether or not the business is focused on and adequately positioned to be attractive, to and identifiable and recognizable and search and discoverable to in law firms, sort of clients of color who will have issues, right? So you want to be identifiable to those folks. Just generally, right? They want to be able to find you, and you'll do a good job. But then also making sure that the way that the services are rolled out actually meet the needs of a few constituents, right? The lawyers internally who need to be trained, the lawyers who need to grow their business externally, and then also the nature of the service that the client wants, right? They're like sort of 3 or 4 fronts that person should kind of be focused on. And so I don't know if that becomes, an assignment that sort of rotates within the practice or a dedicated person, because it may change practice area to practice area. And so if we really root it in the economic base of the business and making sure that we're not leaving any money on the table, right? We're covering all the white spaces on the board. We may be able to make it sort of attractive and sort of foundational to sort of the work of servicing the clients, as opposed to having to service the lawyers, right? We're really servicing the clients. Mm-hmm. And these DEI initiatives are important because they are connected to our fundamental business, which is servicing the client. So I just put that out there to till with how we deal with the dedicated resource and what that means to have resources coming.
Danielle, we have made a very excellent working group for you.
I agree.
Yemi's on the group, and Tristan and Michael. It's a rock star group for you. Oh, Tristan got another question.
Yeah, like to Yemi's point, I think, one of the reasons to have slightly different standards is for the firms we could use origination credit, right? We have to make sure that these things are being incorporated into the structure, the financial structure of the way firms are run. We need something slightly different for corporations and in-house counsel, right? But making sure that things actually get traction. And I think that we want to Danielle's question, what else do we want to add? We want to look to the best places to work, for Black employees, best places to work, right? There's a whole slew of them, and Minority Council, as well as HRC, because we want to pull in perhaps a couple of those things, if nothing else, for next level stuff, right? Because we aren't the first ones to do this, right? There's a lot of other really good organizations that have done this, and we could kind of tie together some of that. So that would be one of my suggestions. Great. All right, that's all I have to say.
Excellent suggestions. Thank you, everyone. Anybody else have thoughts on this before we make Danielle talk about something else?
Well, I did just want to mention, I appreciate the nuance and discussion around thinking about potentially different lists for different employers, or different like framing of the action items for different types of employers, firms, to Tristan's point, being able to like tie it to their business model. When we were talking with focus groups and stakeholders and developing this first list, a couple ideas that came up were things like requiring that they have a budget for DEI, or like supporting attorneys' participation in affinity bars. And what we ran into is that, certain types of employers may or may not be able to do that financially. But we had definitely some stakeholders that wanted the action items to have more of that financial bent to them.
Great. Well, I look forward to seeing what you guys all come up with. So thank you for that.
We have a next step,
You guys are going to have a working group meeting, I think.
Okay, great.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, Danielle. And Danielle, not to ask you to shift gears Um,
Oh, she's ready. Look
I'm
at
right
ready.
away, you've already got the other PowerPoint up, so.
Yep. And I apologize, you all don't have a printed copy of this, but I promise it's 3 slides. It's short, and this is one of them. So it's 2 slides of text.
It is short.
You hopefully prints over lunch if needed. Great. So yeah, wanted to give a quick update and solicit any feedback or discussion about yesterday's diversity summit. This is a slide is an overview of the agenda for the day. Our program ran from 10:30 a.m. to about 3:30 p.m. We had opening remarks from Leah Wilson and Judge Rossi. We had a presentation and panel discussion on generational differences in the workplace. So those generational differences in workplace preferences and kind of the great discussion around the values and experiences that particularly Gen Z is bringing to the workforce, and what Dr. Donnelly, who gave a great presentation on this, talks about her work as preparing the workforce for Gen Z and also preparing Gen Z for the workforce. And so that was really a thread throughout the morning. After lunch, we had one of our colleagues here at the State Bar, Josiah Sweeting, do a presentation on the 2023 diversity report card, and particularly a profile of inactive attorneys, and had a discussion about who is leaving the California legal profession and why. And that led us really nicely into a panel discussion moderated by Shalak on supporting career growth for attorneys through mentorship and sponsorship. I'll also note that all the panelists for this panel were Leadership Seal recipient employers. So that was great. And then we had some breakout sessions to allow folks to talk about these topics in more detail amongst themselves. And then Tara and Shalak did our closing remarks for the day. And so just a couple high-level points I wanted to share, but then happy to open it up to those that attended to also give their feedback. We had over 75 attendees in the room from really all across the California legal profession, private, nonprofit, government, law schools. The presentations and panels led to really robust discussion, in my opinion, and we received great questions from the audience, really at all stages, and also had quite a hard time bringing the room back together after the breakout sessions because folks were really digging into the conversations they were having. State Bar staff are planning to send out a feedback survey and also the PowerPoint slides to attendees early next week. So we'll have even more feedback that we can bring back to COAF after that. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you so much to all of the COAF members who helped make this event possible and also who attended. Judge Rossi did our opening remarks. Shalak did our moderated that panel and also did closing remarks, and then Tara did closing remarks as well. Tara and Shalak also did so much work helping prepare for the Diversity Summit, and particularly were integral in recruiting panelists and speakers for the event. It really would not have been the same without having you two in that supporting role. We also had Judge Rossi facilitate one of our breakout groups. So it really was a team effort yesterday, and very much appreciate the COAF members that were there with us. Tristan was also there, Jezreel was there, and so it was a great day. I hope I'm not missing any other COAF members that were there in the room with us. But yeah, happy to open it up and hear feedback from the rest of the group. I hear whispers in LA. Did I miss somebody?
No, Stephanie was there too.
Stephanie, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a quorum.
Yeah.
Oh, no
We had a
worries.
quorum yesterday at the Diversity
Oh,
Summit.
here Stephanie's joined us.
Yay!
Hi,
Stephanie's here now.
sorry. I had calendared this morning, but I was going to say that I thought Dr. Donnelly was fabulous, and I was
Yeah.
very pleasantly surprised with the multi-generational topic. I've never considered really diversity from that angle, and I thought it was really enlightening to hear that.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. I said that to Shalak yesterday, and I just said it across the table, 20 seconds ago, that she was fantastic, and I understand that there was a chance that she was going to be on Zoom, and she decided to come in person.
Well, thank God for that.
And
Yeah,
thank
that's
God
right.
for
It was
that.
a very good move.
Number one, but her energy on the subject would have been hard to contain in a Zoom screen.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know how she would have done it. but it was great, and it was, you know, I was hanging out with folks after the thing, and I was talking about this multi-generational concept of diversity and the empathy that we need to all have around that, which is hard for some of us to have. It was just great. It was great, and I think everyone in the room responded. And for those who were there, you know this, but for those who weren't there, you know, we've done the summit many times during COVID. A summit in person was phenomenal. I mean, really, I got to meet Tara and Jezreel and Stephanie in person, and Leah. Leah and I have been working together for 5 years. I got to meet people in person for the first time yesterday.
That's the Gen X in you.
Right, it is the Gen X, totally. It's like, I get to hug people that I never got to hug before. And so, but you could feel the energy in the room. The room was full, the people were sitting in back. Stephanie didn't even get, you know, a real chair. She had to sit in like one of the overflow chairs in back with Judge Esther, who was former chair of co-op, was also here. It was just really, the energy in the room was palpable, and it was a great program. And I was, you know, thrilled that I was able to come down early to be there. And I'm sure I speak for everyone else, but, you know, Elizabeth and Danielle and Shalak and Tara, thank you. Because it really was a great program all the way across. I mean, and it was 6 hours, and it was great all 6 hours.
I actually had somebody come up to me at the end of the day and say they like wished it was longer. They're like, the conversations were so exciting. I wish we could have talked more. So
yeah, I will say that I had a couple people say this should have been 2-day and it should be at a stadium or a hotel. Like, there should be 200 people. The bar should be pushing this to everybody. And I was like, girl.
Did you hear Leah talk about
and
the need for
Elizabeth put so much into just trying to have these 75 people. Please don't try to kill them. By making it a 2-day, 200-person summit. Like, not that you couldn't do it and do it very, very well. And you all overwhelmed me with how wonderful you were. I mean, drafting panel questions and remarks and corralling people and helping to fill in the gaps with panelists who say they can come, they can't come. You know, like, you all are just phenomenal. Danielle and Elizabeth, thank you for everything that you did, and executing vision and pulling everybody through, and being on the fly and not letting anyone who hasn't read your facial expressions on Zoom realize that you were irritated by technology was phenomenal. Like, you all really did an amazing day. So thank you.
Yeah. And I wanted to say also a thank you to whoever was responsible for getting Dr. Donnelly there, because I had actually seen one of her TED Talks and used it as research before I served a client on these issues. So very, very impressed to be able to see her in person. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you guys pivoted with when the technology did not go our way. I know you were all very flustered, but you pivoted in a way, and, you know, everyone changed it up. Shalak stood, walked the room, like, you know, we made it happen, and it was phenomenal.
Leah used it as an opportunity to support the bar.
Yes, Leah got to make her excellent pitch. Right.
The fee increase, yeah.
Yeah, we need a fee increase because the technology just isn't working. So no, it was great. I mean, I don't know if other folks, it was just really nice to see people in person. And yeah. Who is Leah? Oh, Leah.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to echo that and how amazing this staff team is, which sounds like you guys already know.
Me too.
And yeah, I'm really excited about bringing some of this into our own organization, particularly the multi-generational piece. Very, very challenging, I think. And I just wanted to reflect on something somebody said during the DEI leadership seal discussion. I think the idea of us providing a real toolkit or a playbook is a great one for organizations, and something that we can certainly do. And recently, those of you, I don't know if anybody in this group has ever participated in any of the bar leaders calls or activities that the California Lawyers Association was hosting. They're stopping that. And so I have talked with the leadership there about us taking that on, which is kind of funny for those of you that have been around the bar a long time. We used to do that before the big divorce. So we're going to resume that, and that may be a forum. It's not exactly the same folks that were in the room yesterday, but certainly to use that as a forum for this kind of connection and thought partnership between different, folks in different organizations on topics of interest, we'll be able to incorporate or bring some of this into that venue as well. So just wanted to share those thoughts. And then I do have to run. I had a meeting that started at 12.
But thank you for being here, Lee. I appreciate that. And thank you for being here in person yesterday.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, other people have thoughts on the summit that they want to share before we break for lunch, right?
Yes. Oh, actually, Judge Dulcich, I know you have some limitations on your time today. Might you want to do your liaison report now?
I could. It is short, and that would be helpful.
Okay, then please do. And thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so sorry I missed this morning. We're in the middle of jury selection on a trial, and jurors come first. So we just have a quick update from the Judicial Council's Committee for Providing Access and Fairness. Our 2024 annual agenda was approved by the Executive and Planning Committee back in March. It's posted online for public viewing on the California Court's website. Our new implementation project for 2024 is also well underway. It's titled Develop Training for Court Staff on Appropriate Use of Machine Translation Tools. So under this project, PAF's Language Access Subcommittee is partnering with the Judicial Council staff to develop training for court staff, including self-help center staff, on the appropriate use of machine translation tools within the courthouse. So training will ensure that machine translation tools are used appropriately for different situations and maintain meaningful and accurate communication between litigants in the court. Training will also highlight situations where an in-person or telephonic interpreter may be needed to ensure that legal rights and remedies are maintained and to avoid misunderstandings in communication. For any questions on this project, feel free to contact Christina Resendez Johnson, who is our PAF lead staff, and or Elizabeth Tam Helmuth, who is Language Access Subcommittee lead staff. Our third little project to mention is ongoing language access signage and technology grants, Cycle 6. So the Language Access Signage and Technology Grant for Cycle 6, which is fiscal year 24-25, launched March 12th. For trial courts to apply for signage and technology initiatives funding. The applications were due back on April 2nd. This is a grant that helps fund various language access initiatives and supports court innovation and greater efficiencies. The Language Access Subcommittee presented a draft report to PAF on June 20th, where the committee voted to approve the proposed allegations and recommendations with the understanding that some adjustments may be made to the awards based on the Technology Committee decisions that are coming August 12th. For information and updates on that grant program for current and or any former cycles, you can also visit the California Court's website where all of that information is contained. That is my report from PAF. Again, just busy like you all as well, doing the business. So
great. Anybody have questions? Yeah, for the judge? I don't see any. Thank you so much for being here. It means a great deal to us all that you are here at every one of our meetings. So thank you. I know how busy your schedule is. It's lovely to have you here every time. So thank you.
I enjoy your meetings. I find them very meaningful, and I'm very sad that I had to miss this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right, folks. So we are at the point where I will let you all go and eat. So we'll come back. We'll take our lunch break now. We will come back at 1 p.m. And we will finish up with the remainder of our agenda at that time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh no, what is that? Are we good? Can everyone hear us?
Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can.
There's like
Oh, you
a,
can.
I think,
Very
I'm
pleasant.
or somebody.
There's
There's some feedback in LA.
It's not here. It's not here.
Okay.
oh,
Okay. Thank
great.
you.
We'll close the doors.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We don't have to vote on anything, do we? Because suddenly I don't think we have a quorum. Oh, no, we do. 3, 6, great. Okay. 7, yes, everyone lost their future. Okay. All right. Elizabeth is going to give us an update on the early pipeline to the profession outreach materials.
This is going to be just a very quick update. We are looking at the brochure, Want to Be a Lawyer brochure, as well as discussing the video campaigns and how we might be able to make that kind of an ongoing effort for COAF. And so staff has reached out to the working group to schedule a meeting, and we will hopefully move that work forward soon.
Great.
And then, I'm sorry.
No, that's it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then next is
Abraham here?
I don't see
Shannon,
him.
can you promote him?
Is Abraham here? Great, thank you. Thanks, Shannon. Abraham is going to give us an update on the research on innovative DEI practices. Maybe. There's Abraham. Hi, Abraham.
Hello. 1 second, I will share my screen. All right, can everybody hear me and can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So first, hello everybody. My name is Abraham Gutierrez. I am a program analyst in the State Bar's Office of Access and Inclusion. Today I'll be talking about research on innovative practices, which relates directly to Goal 2 of the State Bar's strategic plan. So this year I was asked to begin researching innovative DEI practices and continue the work begun last year by the COAF working group of Dean Richards, Tristan, Novella, and State Bar staff. So today I'm happy to give a quick recap on how this work began and share an update on my research. And at the end, I have some questions to hopefully help guide a conversation to continue talking about this subject. So first, I'll begin with background on what Goal 2 is. These background slides should also look familiar. These sort of come from the presentation back in December, where the working group, which I want to thank again, began giving us sharing these great ideas that I'll be talking about in just a minute. So here we have language from the State Bar Strategic Plan at Goal 2. And Goal 2 is to protect the public by enhancing access to and inclusion in the legal system. The strategic plan goes on to describe the goal as increase access to the legal system through public outreach and education, improved access to legal advice and services, and a profession that reflects the diversity of California's communities. So then we have sort of the main guidepost for this project, which is to research DEI practices from other industries that may be adaptable to the legal profession. So on this slide, we have the practices and topics that were presented by the working group to COAF back in December. I believe it was December 1st. So this first one was essentially taking a clear position on the Supreme Court's ruling on college admission. One update from this is that since the meeting we've had, or at least here at the State Bar, we had Dean Chemerinsky from the Berkeley School of Law give us a talk and kind of guide us through what this might mean for organizations. So at least I know here at the bar, it's still kind of top of mind, definitely still important, definitely something we're still discussing here at the bar. The next one was promoting inclusive practices in the court system. And two specific practices that were mentioned during the December meeting were updating forms to ensure correct pronoun usage and providing guidance to judges on the correct name pronunciation. So this is something I think the working group and COAF decided was more in line with the work of the Judicial Council. The next one was creating a curriculum centered around diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then we have amplifying efforts to encourage first-generation students and people from underrepresented communities to go to law school. And then we go on to, in addition to promoting what DEI efforts work, acknowledging what has not worked and why it hasn't worked. So for me, during my research, I think I understood this to mean that we might want more granularity when we're evaluating some of the programs that are coming out from the state bar. We might be able to kind of identify, programs that might need to be updated or changed. I think for me, during my research, I thought this might be a longer conversation about how we actually define success for some of these programs so that we can make a proper evaluation. The next step was formatting the diversity report card to emphasize changes to DEI measures. We saw this at the release of the 2023 diversity report card, which I'm pretty sure was after the December meeting. So the 2023 diversity report card included a 5-year trend chart in addition to a look at 2023. We also got a presentation on the report yesterday at the Diversity Summit. So I think generally we can expect more from the diversity report card going forward. And lastly, we wanted to identify and share successful examples of legal employers promoting DEI in workplaces. So from that, I began my research. So I'll kind of get into what I started working on this year. So first, I wanted to give some context for how I approached my research by showing some questions I was considering when deciding where to look and what to really pursue further as it relates to innovative practices. So first, of course, is consideration of just what are the DEI-related challenges faced by the legal community. Even just this morning, we heard about attrition rates. We also have hiring biases and cultural resistance to change. And then from that, the next step was to really consider how these particular challenges affect development and retention of attorneys from diverse backgrounds. The third question here is where we kind of got to the core of the research, which is what best practices and innovative solutions from other fields or other professions, such as medicine, the medical and education field, have successfully addressed these challenges. And once I identified some practice that I might want to kind of research further, I needed to decide how it fits into the State Bar strategic plan and how does it align with the goals and functions of the council here, COAP. Beyond that, I also kept in mind that I didn't want to stifle like any innovation. I think that was part of my guidance from Elizabeth was, if it's interesting, if it's it could be effective, and like don't not present it, don't take it under consideration. As we saw with some of the practices presented in December, even though they may not have necessarily been under the purview of the State Bar or the council, we still have opportunities to present research to our partners. We don't really want to constrain ourselves to just what we're going to be able to do here in this group or here at the State Bar. And then finally, once we've established that a practice was something we wanted to investigate further, we wanted to consider if it was already being implemented in the legal field by, say, a national organization like the ABA or another organization in California. So through my research, these were the key areas where I found there was a lot of potential innovation. First, there was like a considerable amount of attention to supporting employers trying to create inclusive recruitment practices and supportive workplaces. Again, we heard about attrition rates this morning for students. And if you want to affect the population of practice attorneys, they need to be entering a job market that is effective at eliminating bias. The next was awareness campaigns, where they were also like a great way to support professionals from diverse backgrounds. Generally, it helps to see others in your field who share your background succeed and be highlighted. So it helps to know that your experience is also being considered by the organizations that oversee your profession, like the State Bar. So there was a lot of emphasis also on using data analytics and metrics to conduct precise needs assessments. Again, this morning, we saw the importance of that for students. It's critical to ensuring the success of any program at the outset, right, to be able to see that there is a problem with hard numbers. And this leads to like the next bullet point, where organizations like the bar need to have feedback mechanisms for these professionals to be heard and actually share these experiences. We can actually continue to collect that data to identify new areas for improvement or innovation. The next bullet point here is leadership development programs were also really important during my research. So especially for leaders from diverse backgrounds, to ensure they can advance into positions of leadership within their field. Yesterday we had a lot of discussion about mentorship, and in order to really have effective mentorship for folks from diverse backgrounds, you want to have leadership from professionals from diverse backgrounds. So that also seemed like a critical piece. And lastly, we see many programs kind of leveraging technology to improve accessibility to the field. And this is where we started seeing the way in which AI can be used to assist professionals and employers of these professionals with elimination of bias, for example. So throughout my research, a common issue or a common obstacle I had was finding that most or all of this, it might sound familiar, right? This might already be work being done here at the bar, being done by another organization, some of our partners. Even like just this morning, we had the diversity seal, we have all this research. All these presentations might check off a lot of these boxes for, we're already doing these things. So that kind of leads me to what I ended up proposing as, I guess the next step for us in this research, which is a way for us to find innovation. So how do we find out what practices are effective? How do we get buy-in for participation? So again, this is where I derive not necessarily on an innovative practices, but how to conduct needs assessments that will ultimately support the working group's effort to identify the next thing that we might want to pursue. So the first step would be to increase outreach to improve the range of perspectives and expertise. So in particular, we may want to increase the connection to affinity bar associations, employee resource groups, and employers of attorneys. I'll say I put together this list before I started supporting Danielle's effort on the diversity summit we held yesterday, where, I saw that our attendee list was, we already have at least one touch point with these groups, and, a significant cross-section of professionals from outside the legal field, where they're at least invested in DEI efforts enough to participate in the diversity summit or be on this mailing list for this information. So I think in some way, we already have that kind of built in. And the beginning is to develop here surveys and questionnaires that are more intentionally designed to identify unique challenges faced by professionals from diverse backgrounds. So by intentional, I mean focus on the specific work and goals of the state bar, and really consider the kinds of questions we might want to ask to get the most out of what's going to be essentially very limited touch points with the legal community and others who are interested in DEI. So as an example, I think I heard this morning the presentation on accredited law schools, and we want to ask students why they're leaving the profession. So additional consideration, I think we might give to maybe asking them what might convince them to stay. So would it be meaningfully different and valuable to ask a student, why are you leaving? And is it, despite why you think considering leaving, are there things that might convince you to stay, even if we can't solve all those problems necessarily? So the first attempt to collect some of this data is likely going to be from the Diversity Summit. So we want to limit it to a very short, but like I said, useful questionnaire to kind of guide maybe the next step of research into innovative practices. My first thought from attending the summit yesterday was that some of the attendees didn't immediately consider age and generational differences as a component of DEI. That wasn't just one person, several people. Even I kind of it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of DEI. So there's definitely something there that we can pursue, some questions we can ask to kind of get additional data that might guide us towards a practice or a program that we might want to implement and support here at the bar to push that further. Sorry about that. So yeah, we'll be putting together that questionnaire and getting the feedback to the Innovative Practices Working Group and COAF. But the ultimate goal of this work, I think, is to have additional opportunities to get feedback from the legal community. So, I think one of the ways would be to create distribution lists. We already have mailing lists where we send out invites to the Diversity Summit, for example. We might be able to utilize that to start collecting more data, but I think right now we're kind of trying to keep it small to get like really concise and specific information for the next project we might want to pursue. Now we can move on to the discussion piece. These are just some questions. We don't have to stick to these questions, but at least for me, as I expect to be continuing this research, I would love to know or to hear from the working group on how they approach their DEI research and where they found like the most potential innovation when they were doing their work. I don't know if anybody's speaking, but everybody's muted.
Muted. Sorry, we were muted.
We were muted, sorry.
Yeah.
We covered these last two bullet points.
So-
I missed it.
These are the discussion points?
No, the visual accessibility stuff.
Oh my God, you skipped it.
Oh.
No, we're going to a discussion?
Yes,
Okay, got it.
we're on the discussion question.
Okay. You skipped on the page.
Is Abraham? Was there
Is that we have your PowerPoint?
Oh, additional research in 2024. Can you go over that slide?
So sorry. I thought I
Yeah,
was on the wrong slide.
absolutely. So this was the slide on like the key areas of innovation. So I'm not sure if there's anything different or if there's anything missing. I'm happy to go over it again.
I didn't hear any discussion about the communication practices or technology to improve accessibility.
Just the last two bullet points.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So again, ensuring communication practices, this is also an important piece that came up a lot during the research. I'm not sure if I skipped it, but I apologize if I did. But yeah, in inclusive communication practices, even just from the working group back in December, things like ensuring people have the opportunity to share their pronouns and that they're respected and used. And again, the other practice that was suggested from the working group was to train judges or provide additional guidance to judges so that they are pronouncing names correctly to kind of increase respect within that community. So, and then leveraging technology, again, to improve accessibility. A lot of the discussion, the hot topic is AI. And again, we've seen a lot of that to how to utilize that so that it's available to attorneys to make sure all attorneys from diverse backgrounds have access to like the latest technology to be able to, benefit from advances in the workspace.
Thanks for going back over that for us, Abraham.
Yeah.
Folks on COAF have thoughts, questions?
Yeah, and we don't have to stick to any of these questions. Just if there's just thoughts or any questions, please.
In all of these, we could spend all day on each one of these, but anybody have initial thoughts they want to share? The working group on this is Novella, Tristan, and I think Shala.
Yes.
So thank you, working group members, for your work on this already.
I don't have the answer to this, but I do think an important question is that about the metrics used to measure success and impact. I feel like earlier today when we discussed the Leadership SEAL program, that's something that was in my mind there, and I think that's here, right? Like, if we put together a new initiative that takes substantial resources for state bar staff, how are we going to determine that it was actually impactful, which I think means being very thoughtful and granular when creating the initiative about the goals of it, both the direct and indirect goals. in order to determine strategically if it's well worth the use of the state bar resources and what programs or initiatives we already have that may be addressing the same goals. And I'm thinking both about those goals identified in the, why am I blanking on what it's called? The work plan. And those that might be state bar goals and ancillary, and being able to be very tight on where a goal might be a collaborative goal. Like there was something that came out of the group and it was determined that it might actually be better under the judicial council, but that doesn't mean that the state bar or COAF couldn't present the idea too with strong encouragement that that partner organization consider leading it forward. And so when I think about the metrics, I think that's part of it, right? Like, is it something that's actually in the bar's purview or should be maybe? What comes to mind is, for example, when earlier today, Leah mentioned the dissolution of those calls and whether or not that goal of connecting better with affinity bar associations and attorneys in general.
It's not you.
Okay.
It's happening.
Whether that is a practice that should be or perhaps instated, but then how are you going to determine if it's successful? Like, is it the amount of people who join the call? Is it the amount of people who speak on the call? Is it the initiatives that come out of the call? Right? Like, how are you going to say this is a good use of our time or not? Or is it urging there's a new LA Unity Bar, because I just got a notification that they have an event coming up. Is it urging them to lead the calls and the state bar supporting it? Just as I think that might be 7 different practices of your discussion questions that I just hit on there. I apologize, Abraham, my brain's a bit scattered at the moment.
Absolutely. It's
But
okay.
yeah, I think
Thank you.
that's it. In terms of like my office approaching some of this DEI research, I'm actually doing research right now on the impact of the Supreme Court decision as measured through lawsuits and legal challenges filed to organizations. And so I think it might be interesting for the bar to look at some of those as they relate directly to bar practices. I know you all had presentations from Dean Chemerinsky and so on, but for example, there's a bar that was sued around a diversity program and settled in part, and that might be instructive to the bar, and or point out areas of innovation that we might be able to see. I do think that innovative practices should be around various dimensions of diversity that are typically ignored, such as that multi-generational diversity, such as diversity among seniority and types of practice. Something that I thought one of the people on the generational workforce panel yesterday pointed out was it was the mentorship panel, I think it was Como, mentioned wanting to ensure that the mentorship program in her organization was open to staff and attorneys.
Yeah.
And I think about that as a form of diversity and how we engage in the profession. Again, may or may not be squarely in the state bar's purview, but in thinking about how do we help people think through that type of organizational diversity that they might ignore, but can certainly impact, other things that have been to the forefront. I'm gonna cease rambling for the moment.
No, you're not rambling. No, those are all good.
I think my question is, we're getting an update on the work. What is it that we're trying to do today? Because we have discussion questions, which I really appreciate, but what is the goal for this agenda
Just to
point?
brainstorm some the collective group, so that when we convene the working group in the next several weeks, the working group can focus in on some of the things that the larger group has brought up.
Okay, cool. Yeah, is there anybody with a hand up?
I don't
see. Jezreel.
Oh.
Hi, just a quick comment. I heard a comment yesterday at the conference actually that I thought was interesting about using AI to help with sort of gathering open-ended responses and just using it as a tool. And I just think it's interesting and something the committee might look more into is just leveraging AI and collecting information. I saw you have a note here about using it to mitigate bias. I admittedly am not like the best person or the expert with using AI, but I just think it's really interesting and it could be something worth exploring and how it can be used as a tool to help. Excuse me.
Great, thanks, Jezreel. Yummy.
Yes, so let me put my hand down. So kind of to the AI point, right? Like, so I have a few things. I think that we have an opportunity that, you know, from a leadership perspective, you know, DEI is not a burden. We're not introducing these folks into these law firms or into these businesses out of, you know, altruism, guilt, or burden. If that's the way the folks are going to approach it, then it's something that should die, right? But we're actually inviting people in who are from a lineage of people who have invented food out of scraps, right? We're inviting people in who've come into the country that they don't know and have been able to establish businesses for themselves and their family. And so the diversity is important because it speaks to the root of intelligence and innovation and you know, sort of thoughtfulness about and planning, right? It really complements the rule of law. And so I think when we think about these initiatives, we think about these things, I kind of want to make sure we're not putting it as a weight around anybody's shoulders or ankles, but we're really illuminating or lifting up the fact that this is a way to get to inspire confidence from your clients. This is a way to access and unlock more dollars from advertisers, to unlock certain things. And so there's a strength I really want us to demonstrate that our profession will stand up for, right? Like we can just sort of demonstrate that it's not about picking winners or losers, picking people by phenotype. It's actually about really making sure that we can hear the best argument that the client needs to win the case. I land.
Yep. Thank you. Those are good points. Thank you. Novella, I see your hand.
Let me lower it. I had two thoughts. One, picking up on the using AI to mitigate bias in recruitment. It occurred to me that I don't know if this, because I've worked at nonprofit legal organizations and now the government, but I think we don't have like internally at these places, we haven't had like AI capacity when it comes to recruitment, which then led me to the other part of like the recruitment chain of like what online platforms that we're relying upon when we're doing job postings. So it made me think that there might be common ones that legal recruiters use, and that fact finding about what their AI practices are could be helpful, and that they might be willing to listen to the state bar or to our group about what they should do to mitigate bias in recruitment if they're using AI. And then the second thought I had was on the, I think Shalak was mentioning like the changes in the law about just how DEI and diversity is considered, and as well as the prompt about ethical considerations and implementing innovative DEI practices made me think of just in a lot of times I've used co-counseling agreements, and I once worked with an organization that had a co-counseling agreement that I thought was innovative in that it tried to expressly talk about how work is assigned and delegated among the co-counseling parties or council, and whose voice is valued for what, and who has like speaking roles with opposing counsel versus the court. And so I think that vein, and also just hearing just in the news about challenges to like courts that have like standing orders or guidance about giving opportunities for oral argument that promote DEI, made me think that maybe there's like some sort of intersection of like ethically, how do we approach this, as well as given our value for DEI, and then also just the challenges that currently exist in the landscape.
Thanks, Novella. Tristan.
Yeah, I have two thoughts. Well, so many thoughts, but two that I want to mention. I really like the way Novella just said mitigating bias in AI rather than mitigating bias with AI, which is the first time I've ever heard that expression. You know, I did a lot of research a few years ago about how biased AI is by its very nature. And so I would be really, if we're going to suggest that anybody use it, I think we have to thoroughly vet it and make sure that the data sets are appropriate and the way it's being trained, et cetera. There's a lot of layers to that. And then the second thing is on the original list of additional research in 2024, those last 2 points that I had asked about earlier really feel important to me, which is probably because right now I'm legally blind, and it's changed everything about the way I interact with the world. And so I'm sure we comply with the law at the state bar, right? And we have, run our websites through vetting processes and things like that. But I do think it would be important. We should examine that because the kinds of things that we do here at the bar are the kinds of things we want to be pushing out to other folks, right? So I think that should be part of this working group, is how are we handling our folks from the disabled community? And is there a ramp into this building?
Yes.
And there's an elevator, right? There's like a lift.
There was
Yeah.
there was a
okay.
guy standing in front of it. You couldn't see it.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a ramp outside too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So those kinds of things, and I think we talked about this morning, a sign grant. Like my favorite thing when I walk up to a building and it says, directions available in Braille, and you're like, well, how are you supposed to? It's not in
the sign.
it's not in Braille, right? Like it needs to be. Anyway, so I'm very interested in that in a way that I wasn't when we first convened the working group, and I think that if the goal is to come up with things that the state bar can adopt, that's one thing. And if the goal
Sorry. It was muted by accident.
Sorry.
Okay, I think that means I was talking too long.
No. It's not Apollo.
Like the debate, the idea that are we doing this research just for our own internal purposes, or are we hoping to put out kind of a best practices suggestion to those in the state? And I don't remember what the goal is.
I think the ultimate goal is for us, if there is like something that the state bar can do, maybe it is like a best practices guide, maybe it is uplifting it at a future diversity summit, or highlighting it somehow in the DEI Leadership SEAL program. So it's just, I think, giving us the opportunity to look at what's out there to inform kind of future work. Or, and maybe it is like, because I think that a lot of ideas have originated from COAF, like the Strategies and Stories program that I updated you all on this morning. So it's, so the many reasons.
Okay. Like having pronouns available on name tags.
Exactly.
For the Diversity Summit. Yeah, excellent. So thank you for letting me share.
So I wonder if, sorry, is somebody else?
No, you're good.
Well, I wonder if, because I'm working a lot on AI and I'm thinking about these things, right? And I'm just, what I'm thinking about is trying to root the work that we do around diversity into something that's unshakable, right? As it's being challenged in sort of other ways, right? And one of the reasons why, sort of these values and these things are important is because the rule of law has been used to enshrine discrimination in the past, and to fortify bias. And so, one of the reasons why, as a tenet of governance, of stewardship, of introducing, welcoming, and so allowing folks into the profession, that this bar has to do is to just be very aware of that past, and also prevent sort of data drift, which is something that comes from the AI space, is that sort of the data drift, where you start with one purpose, but the algorithm or the module changes and does something different that corrupts the data. But I think that if we will never not have to do this work. We'll always have to do this work, because as a part of the profession that we are welcoming folks into has been corrupted in the past, and we know that. And so it's important that we don't have that happen on our watch. I'll land.
Well said.
But that's helpful as an anchor to, thinking about, thinking of approaching this work through multiple committees, right? Why it's a vein that is showing up in a few different places. So I'll land.
Yeah. Thanks, Yemi. If I may. Yes, Shalak.
Jezreel has her hands up.
Jezreel and then Shalak.
Just another sort of comment, going a little different direction. I think it's kind of come up already, but I think also looking at other areas that aren't typically looked at, like the generational, intergenerational topics, I think is a big one. I think another one, we talked a little bit, again, the conference, I'm still buzzing off of the conference, great. But we talked about, the reasons attorneys are going inactive, and how the age is younger for certain groups, and like kind of looking at the reasons behind that. And then some discussion, I think thinking about things like becoming a parent, mothers, or whoever has a parenting responsibility, fathers as well. I just think like maybe thinking about other categories that typically aren't at the forefront might be another area to consider with innovative work or practices.
Yeah, thanks, Jezreel.
Yeah,
And Shalak.
mine was along the same lines. I'm not sure if Stephanie's on here, but thinking about that as well. I think that it would be interesting in thinking about areas to prioritize or to focus efforts, might be in thinking about maybe the less engaged areas of the state, thinking about those that might be more rural, et cetera, and practices that might be helpful to practitioners and the public, which is ultimately whom the state bar serves, in those areas to provide support and guidance. And thinking about Julie Aguiar yesterday on the mentorship panel, and that she astutely called out that for her attorneys who might be in more rural areas and might have both gender, race, religion, even generational differences from the communities that they're serving, their program is geared towards providing some additional support for those experiences. And that makes me think about practices that may not seem innovative in San Francisco or LA or San Diego, but perhaps might be very innovative in Bakersfield or Fresno or Redlands or whatever, in order to support the attorneys who are there and keep them in the profession and provide them with the on-ramp to feeling more innovative using AI, but also using the humans in front of them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Abraham, is that enough?
Yeah, that was great. I really appreciate it.
Is that a good launching point?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Elizabeth wanted me to mention that we'll probably be trying to reconvene the working group in the summer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you all so
Great.
much.
Great. Thank you all. Those are great thoughts, great directions to go. You know, and COAF has led in DEI and will continue to lead in DEI because of all you brilliant people who are here today. So thank you. Anything else for Abraham on that?
That's it for me.
Great. Thanks, Abraham. Appreciate you coming in.
My pleasure.
Okay, we are gonna change courses now. And Helen is here. There's Helen. Hi, Helen.
Here. Hello, everybody.
To talk to us about the implicit bias online MCLE module, another COAF project and brilliance.
All right, I will share my screen. Let me know if you can see my screen.
We can.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Chair Rossi and COAF members. My name is Helen Yu, and I'm a Senior Program Analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion. I'll be presenting on item 6.6, update on the implicit bias online module, online MCLE module. I'll just start with a little bit of background. This slide shows the timeline that staff is following to launch the new module in late August. The current Disrupting Implicit Bias module launched in 2022, and to date, over 21,000 learners have completed the module. Since March 2023, staff has been working with the same subject matter expert, Catrice Monson, and a new vendor, Alencom, who's a corporate training and e-learning company to incorporate learner feedback and to update the module. I do want to take a moment to thank the working group members, Novella and Angelica, for reviewing the updated script. One key upcoming date that I do want to highlight is the delivery and the review period for the alpha module. Staff is expecting to see the alpha module by the end of day today, which is really exciting. We'll then engage the working group once more to review the module, and they'll receive an email early next week with that information to provide feedback by July 15th. Staff expects the updated module to be completed by August 19th. Next, I'll go over the overview of changes. About 25% of the module will be updated based on feedback from learners. The updates include revisiting caselets to be more nuanced and less stereotypical, defining terminology throughout the course, making the course more applicable to solo and small firms, updating many of the images, and also an overall update on the interface so that the course is more learner-friendly and navigation will be a lot more straightforward and intuitive. The new content includes a section on allyship and steps to disrupt implicit bias in everyday interactions. This new course will also be more interactive. It'll include motion graphic videos and feature a range of voiceovers throughout the module. Next, I'll share a preview of the new module. I do want to note that the images that you'll see are not final, but it will give you a sense of the overall look and feel of the changes. So you'll see here, this is a preview of the landing page. On the left, of course, is the existing module that we have, and then the right is a preview of the updated. On the landing page, learners will first see a pop-up with a welcome message and then instructions. And then this is another preview of the landing page. After the learners exit the pop-up that you just saw, all the module components are on one page, and it'll feel very similar to navigating a website. Learners will also be able to see their overall course progress to the right of the screen and also on the top. This slide shows a preview of how the navigation of the course will be updated. Each module will be displayed on the landing page, and then learners can easily click into each of the modules. Once learners click into each module, they'll see something that Alencom calls drawers, that they're essentially the course content each course content is essentially embedded into each module. So it'll just sort of open and learners can continue clicking throughout the course. This slide is a preview of the learning content. In conjunction with the script revisions, the new module will feature different ways to engage learners. This is just one example of how a step-by-step explanation would look like. And then this is a preview of the caselets. Similar to the existing module, the updated module will feature several caselets. Each caselet in the new module will have a different voiceover. So there'll be just multiple voices, different kinds of voices, different gender identities, and it'll just be more diverse throughout for the voiceovers. And this is the last preview that I'll share. It's the incorporation of motion graphics. The motion graphics are essentially short 1-minute videos that will be embedded into the course. The new course will feature 2 motion graphic videos, and a knowledge check will be incorporated mid through each video. And this is really to make sure that the course is more interactive overall, and then also to track that our learners are watching and going through the entire course. That concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I just want to add that all the updated visuals that Helen has shared, they're not finalized, so just keep that in mind.
Yes, a lot of it is a text placeholder for now, but once we get alpha, we'll be able to see the preview the course from beginning to end.
Yeah, and then like Helen said, Novella and Angelica will send you that. Basically, it's like the draft course for your review and comments, and you'll have a couple weeks to look at that.
Thank you, Helen. Shalak, question.
Yeah, I think this is all great. Thank you, Helen and working group for your hard work on this. I just had a question along the lines of Tristan's comment earlier. With the increased use of motion graphics and videos, are they accessible for those who may be vision impaired or otherwise have accessibility difficulties with motion and video graphics?
Everything on the State Bar's website is accessible. Oh. And this is part of my State Bar profile and our e-learning platform, so that it will.
Okay.
It is treated similarly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
that was my only.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Yep. Great. Other questions about this? Tristan?
On the last slide, the existing slide says, what is microaggressions? And that gives you like 2 choices. And the new one is just a big photo.
No, it's going to be a motion. It's a video.
So is it a video that incorporates the same content, or is it totally different?
The content will likely be very similar. We're only updating 25% of the original content, and a lot of the content is working in conjunction with our subject matter expert. So you'll see here, the existing that you saw on the left side is just an example of how content was laid out in the existing, but it, in addition to motion graphics, would also have written content.
Okay.
Yeah, and part of the reason for us to update the course is we got a lot of feedback from all of the takers, which was really useful. But also the platform we were using before was a little bit outdated and clunky, and we received a lot of feedback about that as well. And so this new platform gives us the opportunity to modernize the way we're presenting this content, so it will include the graphics that Helen has described.
So it's
instead of just you read the screen and then you press next, it will be like a graphic with a voiceover and images and things, so that it's a little bit more engaging.
And then questions at the end of that or whatever. So we're not getting rid of a section on microaggressions.
No.
Okay, great, thank you.
Awesome. I have one more. It's almost a purely logistical question. Elizabeth, you mentioned that this is typically accessed through the My State Bar profile. What about those who may not have a My State Bar profile? So as an example, I'm inactive, but I'm licensed in another jurisdiction. I am not practicing law in the state of California. Right. But say, or if I have students who are anticipating they're attending law school in California, but they're anticipating taking the bar elsewhere, so they haven't registered as a law student with the state bar. Would they have access to this, or is it purely an MCLE offered for California licensed attorneys?
I believe currently it's just offered to California licensed attorneys because the e-learning platform is just for the California licensed attorneys, and this is where this lives. But that's a good question. We can ask our colleagues in professional competence if it's possible to make it available.
Is that the same for like the imposter syndrome resources?
No, the
and so on?
imposter syndrome resources live on the State Bar website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We may want to think about that because, and Michael and Stephanie are on this call too, but most judges go inactive on their state bar profiles.
Well, if you're inactive, you
You
have
can still
access
see
to
it.
it. Because
Okay.
I'm inactive and I have access to it.
We can discuss that later. Okay, so if you're inactive and as long as you have a state bar profile,
Yes.
even if it's inactive,
Yes.
you're inactive,
Yeah, if
you can still
yes,
get it. Okay,
yes, you have access
all
to
right,
it.
okay. All right. Other questions?
How many?
Yep.
How many people have taken the course so far?
21,000, I think she said.
Yeah, over 21,000.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'm just gonna say one more time, because this came out of COAF, this was an idea that came out of COAF when I first got on COAF, and now it has impacted over 21,000 people, attorneys in the state. So again, if you don't think we're doing amazing work, people, you're not paying attention, because we're doing amazing work. So thank you to the working group and State Bar staff who are working on this. And for, you know, you always take the surveys at the end of a training and you always wonder if anybody's actually updating the training based on your feedback. And so it's nice to actually know that at least the State Bar is paying attention.
We've received quite a bit of feedback, and Helen very painstakingly cataloged it all so that we could share it with our subject matter expert and review it together. Yes.
Great. When did we launch this?
It was launched
2022
years ago. 22, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will note that all the updates that we've been making, we've been very intentional to link that to the feedback that we've received. So the 25% that we did update, there are like specific groups of sort of trends that we saw in the comments that were like, okay, we saw that this example, we received X number of comments and feedbacks that it wasn't nuanced enough. So we made sure to make those updates.
Right. No, I really appreciate you doing that. That had to have been tedious. I appreciate you going through that and making the changes, because a better product is, you know, means more people hopefully. So great, thank you so much. Anybody else have questions for Helen or the working group? Was it Novella and Angelica that were on this?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you both for your hard work on this and for the work you're about to do in the next 2 weeks in reviewing the new one. Which apparently you're going to get later today. So thanks for that. Okay. The next thing on our Jezreel, sorry.
Hi, sorry. I jumped in late there. I just had a comment on the imposter syndrome. I haven't looked at the content yet. But I know this is a different module, but I've been reading some interesting articles about reframing the concept as more of like an effect of structural systems rather than like, I'm trying to explain it in a more condensed way, but rather than like ascribing it to an issue that an individual